All right, and good Friday morning. It is 11 o'clock. That means we have a brand new update from the National Hurricane Center, holding steady as far as the intensity goes. We've been holding at 85 miles per hour since late last night. We're holding at that intensity now, but we're definitely lowering that number, the distance from the shore of South Carolina, now 60 miles east-southeast of Charleston.
And you'll notice now the movement of the storm starting to speed up. We're going to be looking at those winds creep again, and it's looking more and more likely every time we get a new update coming in. We're looking at a Georgetown County landfall at this point.
Yeah, feeling pretty confident, likely around Georgetown, maybe even as far north as Murrells Inlet. But as we've been saying, the point of landfall is really just a scientific, technical note, because way back here on the backside, they're dealing with big issues in Charleston, already dealing with downed trees and power outages in our area way out here. So the entire area is going to be feeling impacts. It's just kind of a technicality that weather geeks like ourselves like to keep up with for where that landfall takes place. Already getting the big wind gusts here. They're kind of coming and going. The number here in Myrtle Beach has been bouncing back and forth between about 40 and 50. Just got a report from Murrells Inlet. Double check right there behind me, Andrew. I think it was 45 sustained, gusting to 68.
68 mile per hour gusts, 46 sustained.
Yeah, so sustained tropical storm force winds now in Murrells Inlet with gusts close to 70 miles per hour already. And those gusts are going to continue to increase. And I think we're going to see a pretty steady and fairly quick diminishing of conditions as we head through the next couple of hours.
It looks like this, too. If you look to your left of your screen is a view of Pawleys Island on the bottom. It looks like we've had the crew out there. I know the causeway in Pawleys Island is now closed, yep. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of these flooding issues as we take a look and go through this. Some of the heavy rain lining up on that northwest side, and you'll notice the onshore flow. We haven't truly got a good reading yet of the right side of this system, and I don't know if we'll get one until the Grand Strand picks up on it.
Yeah, absolutely, but nonetheless, just the simple force out ahead of this is pushing that water on shore. That's why we're already seeing the coastal flooding, as expected, that has developed. We're closely watching those water levels to see. Once we start getting close to Isaias, of course, we know that those are going to be some pretty serious numbers. We're not there, but we're definitely in the threshold now where coastal flooding is ongoing. This is the updated forecast track from that 11 o'clock advisory. Here's where the center is right now. We'll take you forward the next couple of hours. And again, notice basically the Georgetown County coastline, maybe the north side, maybe the south side, as we head into 2 o'clock this afternoon.
And of course, by 2 o'clock, that's when we're going to be seeing some of the strongest winds along the Grand Strand. We were talking about the 70 to 75 mile per hour gusts. I think if we're going to have a shot, it's going to be right after lunchtime and as we head in toward the evening. Notice landfall category 1 as we go through. We play this forward, and you'll notice some of the heavier rain. Where I think we're going to see some localized flooding problems is right north of that eye wall coming into Florence County, Williamsburg County, even Marion County, some big-time rain totals. And it's still not anything for river flooding,
right,
but I think 6+ inches of rain looking more likely there.
And a lot of that, as is expected, is coming down in just a couple of hours' time. So that's going to give us the flash flooding. There's the forecast as we head through the rest of the overnight hours tonight, pushing out of our area, quickly weakening down to a tropical depression after midnight. We've got the Wicked Tuna camera up there, and the reason we had it pointed that way is some of the sheet metal there was actually blowing around not too far from the Wicked Tuna. We're also keeping an eye on those water levels there in Murrells Inlet as well. Here's where we stand with radar right now. It is raining everywhere. In spots, it is heavily. In a lot of spots for the Grand Strand, it is coming down sideways.
And when you were looking at some of the wind reports, too, that are coming in and some of the stuff, even from reports in National Weather Service, Chad, tropical storm force winds basically extending all the way up into the PD. But heavy rain now starting to work on shore, and with that, the winds beginning to shift. We're going to start to see the storm surge. Already have some crews out there that'll tell you about that. But notice in Georgetown, light rain falling, some of the heavier stuff working to the north, and that heavier stuff is going to come in tropical waves as we head into that forecast.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually do have a brand new flash flood warning now for coastal sections of Georgetown County, basically from the inlet down into Georgetown. We're talking primarily coastal sections. That does include, though, downtown Georgetown. And one thing we're having to watch closely, we've got the water levels coming up with the coastal flooding. We've got a lot of runoff from the heavy rain. So that's going to make those flooding issues worse down there where we see that heavy rain. Here's the big picture. And again, we can now see the eye. That forecast we showed you a little while ago, we had that landfall 2 o'clock. Let's see, it's just after 11 o'clock now. Maybe a little bit earlier. We may be starting to kind of pick up on the speed of this, as Andrew, as you were saying a few minutes ago, but yeah, that thing's booking along pretty good here.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to be right, like we said, somewhere in Georgetown County. Expect the wind here to pick up in Horry County, I would say, in the next hour or two. It's already picking up, and when we look at the gust over the past couple of hours, increasing every single time as that eye wall slowly starts to come on shore here in the next hour.
Yeah, good news is, though, we're not seeing these individual cells like they're getting up here in eastern North Carolina. It looks like we're going to dodge the bullet with the tornado risk. That's primarily north and east of us there in eastern North Carolina. So that is some good news. As we continue to show you some of our live pictures here, I believe this is the causeway down there in Pawleys Island. And again, you can see the high water, and you can also see the very strong winds and the heavy rain coming down. There again, though, a closer look at the eye. And again, it's just kind of wobbling its way off to the north. It's right about in there, and then right back in here in this band where we do have probably some hurricane force gusts taking place. And yeah, we've been talking about that. Andrew's pointing out some lightning strikes. It's unusual to get lightning strikes during a hurricane, but the fact that this one is still producing lightning tells us it's got some bite left to it. These are some really intense thunderstorms here on the southwest side of the eye. No doubt, there's probably some hurricane force gusts, maybe Folly Beach, Isle of Palms, at least right out over the Atlantic there, right not too far off of Charleston, dealing with some of those very strong winds. These are our current wind gusts. Brand new, the highest one so far of the day, coming in for Georgetown at 55 miles per hour. We're gusting to tropical storm force now for Florence and to Marion, over 40. 40 in Myrtle Beach, 44 for North Myrtle. That 55 in Georgetown is starting to creep its way up the beach as we head through the next 1 to 2 hours.
You were talking about the hurricane force wind gusts. I was here with the chat going on. Charleston down trees now around downtown, more than likely from that eye wall. You'll notice the gusts 55 at Georgetown, and I think as this starts to come on shore, we'll start to see Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach or wind gusts pick up. Do want to point out, still a little bit more calm, but starting to pick up in Hartsville, Laurinburg. We're not forgetting about you, 36 mile per hour wind gusts, but Florence and Marion, you're now at the tropical storm force winds. Here's the forecast. Expecting these, if we're going to hit these totals, think of the next 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, probably, let's say midday through early to mid-afternoon is when we're going to see probably the strongest gusts. We haven't really changed this much since early this morning. Still thinking the best bet for hurricane force gusts is going to be from the inlet down to Georgetown, closer to where the center comes ashore. But the difference between a 75 gust and a 70 gust is negligible.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to tell the difference. It will down trees and it will knock out the power. So will 55 mile per hour gusts. This isn't just a beach storm. We've been saying it all morning. Florence, Darlington, Hartsville, even Laurinburg and Lumberton. You're getting in on those tropical storm conditions.
And of course, with this, the storm surge threat will increase, and that's where we're going to be looking at problems. I know we haven't been talking about it yet. I heard a question. I saw it on Twitter as well. We were talking about Cherry Grove. You may not be seeing the rising water yet, but it's coming. I can promise you the winds are starting to transition there. Here's a good view. How about the water approaching the dunes?
Yeah, we're already running up on the dunes here for the Grand Strand. This is our camera at 10 roof, and I know it's hard to see, visibility low in the rain, but we are getting the run up there on the dunes, and probably some dune breaches already starting to take place. Let's catch up with some of our reporters out and about. I believe we're going to downtown Myrtle Beach right now, Allie Espinosa, where we've already seen a little bit of that minor damage beginning to show up. Allie.
On Ocean and Boulevard, we're actually at the forgot the name of the hotel, but it's the Bermuda Sands Hotel. And as you can see here, the wind has actually ripped off the side coating, the stucco coating, as we're told. It's blown it off from the wind. It's fallen onto the sidewalk here. Some of that material has actually come out onto the roads. Now, Myrtle Beach police actually came. As you can see there, they taped off this area so people can't come through it or come near it, just in case any hazards are there. Another thing we've also seen on Ocean Boulevard, there's no flooding as of yet, but there are some pooling in certain areas off of the side of the curbs, off the side of the road. Also, a lot of tree limbs have actually fallen. We're seeing a lot of debris from trees and dirt just alongside parking lots, roads, and sidewalks here. That's all I have for now. Live in Myrtle Beach, Allie Espinosa, WMBF News.
All right, Allie, we appreciate that. I will say we are looking at some of those winds starting to pick up, gusts of 40 miles per hour now. And let's take a look, because here is where we're starting to see some big-time issues.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. There's a weather sensor down there in Murrells Inlet, and again, not too long before we came on the air, 46 sustained, gusting to 68, gusting to 55 at the moment, and you can see just how wild it is down there in the inlet. Cameron, can you adjust that camera? I just kind of want to take a little camera tour and point things out to folks. There's Goat Island. There's Goat Island right up there, just about underwater. Cameron, I want you to pan down towards the ocean. So let's work our way to the right. And we're going to take you past Veterans Pier to give you an idea of how high the water is there at Veterans Pier. You can see, again, there's Goat Island, just a couple of trees left over. There's Veterans Pier at the bottom of the screen. You can see the whitecaps out there. Notice how you can't see across the marsh. It is ripping out there over the marsh right now, probably with some of those 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Looks like the boats, everything are doing okay. I'm sure they're all tied down and moored in there pretty good, but you can also notice how the camera is shaking around a bit. So we're going to keep an eye on that camera. I'm going to take our next tour. It looks like we've probably lost the Florence camera. So this is something we're going to deal with. We probably lost the power connection there to our Florence camera. Look at that. This is the tin roof sky cam, and you can see the height of those waves now coming in there on the bottom of the pier. And those waves going to get bigger, especially as we get that onshore flow.
Well, and that's what we're saying. This is with the wind against the waves. So when we get the winds out of the south, you can only expect at least those to more than likely double in size here as we start to pick up on some hurricane force wind gusts. Those winds starting to pick up. We actually have some damage coming in from Georgetown County. We have some trees down from the wind. We were just looking out there at the Murrells Inlet camera.
Yeah, we have Matt Bullock, meteorologist Matt Bullock. He is down there in Georgetown. Matt, you're coming across some of that damage from those strong winds now.
Yeah, pretty much, Jamie. The winds that we've seen earlier this morning, as I mentioned about an hour ago, we had 60 mile per hour winds here in Georgetown. That strong of winds can knock down trees, tree branches. Right behind me, we have a tree that fell down on a home. According to emergency management here in Horry County, they said several people are injured. We're unsure of the number, but we're going to get more details on that. As you can tell, huge tree. Again, we have those gusty winds at 60 miles per hour that can knock down trees, branches, and also what can tell you that driving on some of these roads, frontage road, covered in tree debris such as branches, along with that Fraser Road, branches around there, some leaf debris, and also on Front Street, we had some flooded roads as well. So we're seeing those gusty winds can cause those trees to fall down, and that can cause some possible power outages. And so we'll keep you updated with the latest details with this family. I've seen a couple of people move out of the house with their pets, but again, as we've been told, there's Ian. These winds were as strong as 60 miles per hour, and so as you can tell, it's still gustier as right now, up to 40, less breezy compared to an hour ago, but still gusty conditions. Also, the heavy rains coming down, so you have to watch out for flash flooding. As I mentioned, we were earlier we were at Front Street, and part by the historic Riverwalk, we've had some roads covered in water about 6 inches deep. But we'll keep you updated with the latest details. I'll send to you back here at the studio.
All right, Matt, we appreciate it. We want to bring you to some video that is coming in. This is actually from Polly's Island that we're going to be getting to. This video showing near the causeway where Polly's Island continues to look at some of those issues now as the onshore wind is coming through. Of course, the storm surge now starting to work in. Do want to let you know right now we're at 8.1 feet. That will continue to climb. The bad part about this, we're just now reaching high tide, and the strongest winds not even on shore at this point. Remember, hurricane force wind gusts now starting to work into the region, and as they do so, we'll continue to look at that storm surge climb and climb. Do want to let you know, in case you missed it, high tide is going to be at around 11:30 here. Cherry Grove 11:58. As we go into Murrells Inlet 11:56. We'll continue to keep an eye on that as we go through. Of course, we're going to look at some of the photos and videos coming in. We'll get to those here in a second. For now, I want to send it over to Lauren Korn for a latest update.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And as we continue tracking Ian and its impacts, the storm is also having an effect a little farther south. Gray Media's Michael Higdon joins us live from Charleston with a check on the conditions there. Michael.
Hey, Lauren. Yeah, I will say in the last 30 or so minutes is when we really started to see conditions go downhill here in Charleston. We've had on and off rain really throughout the morning, but like I said, in the last 30 or so minutes is really when we started to see really big downpours, as well as the wind gusts are starting to pick up, moving the rain at a slant in certain times as the rain bands from Ian moving closer to our area. We have crews across the Lowcountry, though, monitoring conditions. I want to show you some video out of Folly Beach, where this was in the last hour, and you can really see just the drastic difference between the non-rain, but still how rough that surf is. Folly Pier has been under construction for about a year now because of the damage that it sustained from previous storms. So we're hoping that it withstands this one because of the high surf that we are seeing. Waves several feet at this point, very different than what we see on a typical day out on Folly. Thankfully, though, the storm surge that we were expecting not quite as bad as we were earlier anticipating, which is great for us here in Charleston just because we flood when you sneeze wrong down here, y'all know. So the fact that we are not going to get quite as much storm surge is great, but I will say with the downpours and high tide coming up in about 20 or so minutes, we're going to see the most flooding in our area. So of course, we're going to keep you guys posted on everything happening down here in Charleston. But for now, live here, I'm Michael Higdon. I will send things back to y'all in studio.
All right, just got a brand new update also now from down towards the Charleston area. We've been talking about that backside eye wall producing some of those lightning strikes here right on the coast of Charleston, right into Charleston Harbor. Fort Sumter at the top of the hour, 11 o'clock, a wind gust to 83 miles per hour. Again, that's Fort Sumter, so it's kind of an open, exposed spot. Probably not seeing winds that strong in Charleston proper, but on the beaches, that is certainly likely. That matches up with some of the other gusts that we have seen, again, close to 70 now in Murrells Inlet. We're gusting around 60 right now in Georgetown, and we're going to continue to see those strong winds work their way off to the north. The center of the storm right about in here and moving to the north at around 14 miles per hour. So the Grand Strand, we're getting some of those 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. We're going to start pushing those numbers probably 50 to 60, and then maybe eventually 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts here as we head through midday into the early afternoon. Let's get a check now of Garden City, obviously a place very prone to storm surge flooding and coastal flooding. Ian Klein, Ian, this is your one and only time ever to cover a storm with the same name as you. Go for it.
Yeah, we've been telling you guys about the high tide as it was coming up earlier. It has officially reached the dunes here in Garden City, pretty much at the peak until it was actually going to breach a few times if we've had a few waves coming up, hitting the dunes to the point where they're starting to splash over. Now, it hasn't actually come over into the inland side where you're going to see those parking decks as well as maybe some the ground, but earlier we had people walking on the beach getting that last minute look before the storm gets even closer. But as of right now, you're not much taking over the area down here in Garden City. Nothing on the roads except for some ponding as we've seen some rain coming down over the past few hours, but we'll keep you updated on the very latest as the storm surge approaches, and we'll see if the waves actually do end up breaching the dunes here in Garden City, but we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All All right, and we're going to go ahead and show you some of the photos and videos that are coming in here. I do want to take you through some of the data here. Notice this is from Michaela Evans. This showing you not only the wind that is continuing to come through, but just the storm surge that is working through. The Pawleys Island Police Department has started to show that as we went throughout. The rain continues to come down. Blankets of rain at this point. You'll notice there is our reporter Eric Richards showcasing that stuff as well and taking video and I'm sure some Facebook Lives. We just want to urge you that videos like this and photos like this go a long way for us here in the studio. Increase here as we go into the forecast. You'll notice there's a look at the causeway. Notice some of the water now starting to work in and over top of it. Pawleys Island has closed that. They are working away from the worst area at this point, so we'll continue to come through. Of course, our team coverage continues. Darion Henderson tracking the hurricane with us and some of the power outages and what we're seeing across the area. I want to send it over to Darion. Darion, what's the latest on your end?
Yeah, Andrew, we're actually seeing widespread a few numbers that we have on our WMBF News page here. We have Santee Cooper. If you have Santee Cooper, if they give you your electricity, 8 for Ori Electric, it's 843-369-2212, or you can text outage, that's OUTAGE, to 352-667. If you have Duke Energy, you can text out to 57801. And if you have PD Electric, it's 843-665-4070. Again, we're seeing widespread electricity is being out across the area. Once again, majority of that being in the Anor area and also in and around the Conway area as well. We did have an outage in the Myrtle Beach area, but those lights have since come back on. That blurb that we have there was roughly about 1,000 people that was out around roughly about 30 minutes ago. Now they seems to have electricity right now. We do know this outage out in Anor is due to a pole hitting a power line, and that's why that electricity came out. We don't know exactly how long this will take. We were told that it could take a few hours to get the electricity back to these customers in the Anor area. But once again, widespread as of right now. We're saying, again, you can go to our website, WMBFnews.com.
Matthew or the Hugo range. But again, if you remember Isaias, we had big issues, especially up there in Cherry Grove, and we're going to see potentially similar issues. This number is running about 2 feet above the original projections. I'm not saying that's going to get us to 10 or 11 feet, but just a heads up here. So if you haven't moved your car in Cherry Grove, or if you see those tourists in the house next to you in Cherry Grove and they haven't moved their cars, knock on the door, say, hey, let's get those cars to a safer place because the water's coming up.
At this point, I would say it's a safe bet to assume that we're probably going to reach at least the Isaias storm surge of 9.8 because that forecast of 9.3 quickly coming at this point. You'll notice, look at the waves. This is the reason being, still winds out of the north. That's the concerning part.
just
But
huge.
we're starting
Huge.
to see the change, and that is what I think is coming as we head into the afternoon and why the storm surge warning is in place. Remember, the original forecast, 4 to 7 feet of storm surge.
Right, and that's what we are watching, and also obviously the big breaking waves. This is going to chew up the beaches.
Yeah.
Cameron is running our cameras for us. I wanted you to, Cameron, if you wouldn't mind, maybe get us a good view. Let's see how high the water is on the dunes there from the Sea Captain's camera. Here's where we are again with the radar within this band. We are getting those gusts to tropical storm force, generally 40 to 50 across most of the Grand Strand, more like 50 to 60 across Georgetown County, and as we mentioned a couple this side, and it's bad on this hurricane.
Oh,
It's
for
been
sure.
bad. But normally the backside, especially with a weakening hurricane, tends to be the first to kind of give up. This has been going since Fort Myers, Florida, a very impressive backside, and that's what is working its way through Charleston right now. That is what gave that hurricane force gust there in Charleston Harbor.
That lightning continues. I also want to say, if you look close,
To put a good chunk of Horry County into this. Although we're going to be knocking down trees and knocking out power for a couple more hours.
yeah, we're going to look at some of the reports that are coming in. I know photos and videos are coming in, and we encourage, if you haven't, you can tweet to Jamie at Jamie Arnold WMBF. You can tweet to WMBF.
Okay, great. We're going to join Eric Richards now, who's out in Pawleys Island off of Highway 17 and the Causeway. Eric, how's it looking out there right now? Our reporters out on the field. You can see all the water right there. This is in Pawleys Island off of Highway 17 and the Causeway. Andrew and Jamie's been talking about this all morning. Some of the areas there prone to flooding. So definitely it's a good idea if you're in those areas to
Keep an eye on that area too, and if we can get ready, I want to go to some power outages in the next couple of minutes, but first I just want to show you what I think is going to start to be the big story here as we head toward noon, head toward 1, head toward 2. This is going to begin to work its way north. Remember, we were talking about that center of circulation starting to work into Georgetown. For all concerned, I think we've lost our power, or at least our sensor hurricane. Still expected to make landfall roughly around 2. I think based on some of the latest trends and the acceleration of this, we may see that a little bit earlier. Remember, storm surge continues to advance. And then by the time we get into the evening, we'll begin to see the rain taper off. The backside can still deliver a blow, which is we're going to have to watch. But I think as we head into the overnight, we'll begin to see the conditions improve, and we'll begin to see some major improvements for your weekend forecast. We have a long way to go, though, before we get there. I do want to go to Darion Henderson. He's standing by for some power outages. Darion, what's the latest number?
Yeah, Andrew, we just checked in with Santee Cooper on their website. We have 12 outages in the Myrtle Beach area, that 501-17 business corridor. We're looking at roughly about 2,000 people are without power in this area. We go a little bit up north, closer to North Myrtle Beach. We're looking at 724 people without power. Let's take it south now, where we go down to Surfside Beach. We have about 260 people without power, about 13 outages in that area. Murrells Inlet, where we have Michaela Evans. Down there, we just saw some live pictures down there. We have about 60 people without power and about 3 outages there. Down to Pawleys Island as well, where we have 62 and 12 outages. And this is just for Santee Cooper. We cannot stress enough, do not call 911 if you do not have power. Our first responders want to reserve that line for extreme emergencies. We have all the numbers you need on our website, WMBFnews.com. So this was just for Santee Cooper. If we go over to Horry Electric, that's where we're seeing more of those power outages coming in from the kind of our, like, on the backside of Horry County, right? We're talking about the Ainer area, where we still have that big power outage of more than 2,000 people at this time, and that's mainly because of the pole hitting a power line, and power has been out for a few hours now out. And we also have in the Conway area, in and around the Conway area, we have a lot of power outages as well. But for now, I'll send it over to you, Lauren, in the studio.
Thank you, Darion. And because of the strong winds, there's a chance that your power's out, if not already, like some of those folks there. The South Carolina Emergency Management Division has several tips for you in case you do lose power. First, never touch a downed power line, the tree limbs or other objects touching a power line. Also, do not tie generators into the house circuit. Instead, plug your appliances directly into the generator. If the power goes out while you're cooking, make sure you turn the stove off and remove any cookware from the cooking surfaces and oven. Do not open refrigerators or freezers during an outage unless it's necessary. And finally, if you smell gas, leave your home and call the power company as soon as possible. You should also stay off the roads until Ian passes, but if you do have to go out, Georgetown police are sharing a few tips. First, expect some flooding. We've already seen it. Do not attempt to drive down any roads that are flooded. If you approach a traffic light with no lights, treat it as a four-way stop. If it's flashing red, treat it as a stop sign. If it's flashing yellow, drive with caution when traffic allows you to. Also, of course, be careful going over bridges because of the gusty winds. Do not call 911 to report a power outage. Instead, call your electric company. Only use 911 for emergencies. So right now, take your phones out and take a picture of this screen, because if your power goes out, these are the phone numbers you can use to report outages. It is important you do not call 911 to report them. First responders need you to keep that line clear unless you have a life-threatening emergency. While you're being asked to stay off the roads today, if you do have to drive, remember, turn around, don't drown, do not drive through any kind of flood water or water pool in the roadways. A reminder again, the water could be deeper than anticipated and moving at a faster rate than your car can withstand. Your car could be swept away, putting your life, the lives of your passengers, and the lives of the first responders trying to help or rescue at risk. Also, remember, there may be chemicals, live electrical wires, holes, and other hazards below the water surface. Georgetown Mayor is asking for everyone to stay home while Hurricane Ian hits. She says Governor Henry McMaster called to offer any assistance. Transportation Secretary Christy Hall also called, and SCDOT will be helping the city with debris pickup as weather permits. Electric crews have also suspended doing aerial work. Georgetown County leader says its disaster call center is experiencing some outages because of power issues. Crews are working to get the line back up as soon as possible. All right, here's some video out at Grant Park in Myrtle Beach this morning. Windy and rainy. The lake levels at the park were lowered to prevent flooding in the area as Ian moves through. Now that the storm is here, it's time to ride out the storm inside. Start building a nest in the room. That's the safest area of your house. That's typically an interior room like a bathroom or a closet with no windows. Put down a mattress and pillows and, of course, have some snacks and water nearby. Make sure you have a radio, flashlights, all with extra batteries and clothes, but do not lock your interior door to limit flying debris or wind flow should the windows inside break. Also, be sure to have your pet carriers for your small animals. It keeps them protected and easier to move if needed. There's a few other things you can do as well. You can turn your fridge and freezer to the coldest settings and keep the doors closed to preserve food as long as possible. Limit your cell phone use in order to save your battery. Also, you can fill your bathtub with water so you can have clean water for cleaning and flushing toilets should you lose water access. Finally, do not try to move to another location in the height of the storm. Roads may be blocked. We've been seeing it already by water and some debris. Okay, this picture here showing the aftermath of a tree getting knocked down on Gardner-Lacey Road in the Carolina Forest area that came into our newsroom just moments ago. You see there, the tree's been cleared to allow traffic through, but there's still leftover debris on the pavement. The wind causing damage this morning along Ocean Boulevard and Myrtle Beach. This is what you're seeing right now. The city tweeted out this picture showing the sign for South Seas knocked down on the sidewalk with the cones up around it. In the same tweet there, the city says there's also damage at the Bermuda Sands Resort. Allison Moore sent us this picture of a tree blown down in Murrells Inlet around 8 o'clock this morning. The wind from Ian also brought down a street sign at the entrance of River's Edge Plantation, as you can see in this picture sent in to us from Jordan Jones. Now, this happened in the Conway area off of Highway 90. You can always submit us your pictures of damage to us when it is safe to do so through our WMBF News app, weather app, and our website, WMBFnews.com. Okay, DHEC extended hours to help answer questions about health services and medical needs, shelters during Hurricane Ian. The number is 1-855-472. DHEC also prepared to perform post-storm dam inspections, deploy mobile teams to impacted areas, and conduct coastal assessments. All right, I'm going to toss this back now to my co-anchor, Darion Henderson. Darion.
Yeah, Luann, remember the WMBF Hurricane Center page has all the resources you need to get through this and any other storm, including a list of important contacts and websites to help you in the recovery process. To find this page, just click on the Weather tab at the top of the page, go to the Hurricane Center, then click on Recovery. And the gusty winds from Ian are already making its presence felt in the Grand Strand. Allison Boer sent us this photo of a tree blown down in Murrells Inlet around 8 o'clock this morning. The wind from Ian also brought down a street sign at the entrance of River's Edge Plantation, as you can see in this photo sent in from us from Jordan Jones. This happened in the Conway area off of Highway 90. You can also submit us your photos of damage to us when it's safe to do so through our WMBF News app and also WMBFnews.com. And these photos were taken by our These photos here were taken by our Natasha Laguerre along Ocean Boulevard. The damage shown here is from Bermuda Sands Hotel. You can always submit your photos once again of damage through us through WMBFnews.com and also the WMBF News app. Also, just make sure if you do send a photo that you do it as safely as possible. And police have closed down the north and south causeways of Pawleys Island around 10:30 this morning. Video here is from Michaela Evans of the Water Rising Disaster Call Center is set up. The number is 843-545-3273. And we're going to take it over here to a photo that's showing heavy rain flooding on Front Street in Georgetown. This was taken by our meteorologist, Matt Bullock. Once again, you can always submit photos to us. You can see the water is all over the road here. And once again, if you have any photos, submit it on WMBFnews.com.
All right, thanks so much, Darion. I think, is that Allie out there? Okay, it's hard to see. We're going to go back to our reporter, Allie Espinoza, who's live in Myrtle Beach. Allie.
Hey Lauren, we're here on 40th Avenue North off of Grinsom Parkway. We're actually down a street here, a neighborhood residence, not too far from the beach, but I want you guys to see this car here. It looks like a Mini Cooper, I believe. This area is flooding little by little. We've only been here for about 5 minutes and it's already risen pretty significantly. Also over here, further back to the back of the vehicle, this area here is continuously pooling with more water just by the minutes. It's rising. The wind over here is not as terrible as it was where we were earlier, but the rain is definitely coming down harder now. Again, we'll continue to provide you more details as Hurricane Ian approaches the Grand Strand. For now, live in Myrtle Beach, Ali Espinosa, WMBF News.
All right, Allie, we appreciate it. Let's go ahead and give an update. I just want to set the picture here on what's taking place. Hurricane Ian, 85 miles per hour. Looking at some of the radar estimates here, looks like we're about 25 to 30 miles offshore. Now, notice this is moving to the north at 14. So give us another hour or two, and we'll actually start to see some more strong winds now on the right side working into Horry County. You'll notice the latest update coming in at 11 o'clock. That location, I think, is now changed a little bit further to the north than what it was. We'll get another update here by 2. But you'll notice here's the circulation now starting to work its way into Georgetown County. That continues to work its way to southern Horry County, and that wind starting to creep up as we go. Notice gusts now, 51 in Conway, 40 in Myrtle Beach, Charleston, wind gusts to 48 for you, 43 as you go into Moncks Corner. And of course, we're looking at those winds still picking up, especially out with these buoys on the right side of this system. Now, still, the strongest wind's going to be just to the right of that center of circulation, if there's not as much precip at that point. Now, as we go throughout, we'll show you by 1, this starts to work its way onshore. I think it could be maybe 1, 2 o'clock, and then we're done with this as this continues to push in. However, keep in mind, the backside of this system, we've been saying it all morning, has had the history of producing some of those stronger winds, and we could see that once again unfold as the storm surge continues to climb. We're continuing to watch that as this works its way to the north. All right, first alert radar, when it just kind of reset the picture, notice in Charleston, the left side there of what was that strong northwest quadrant, now showing still plenty of lightning. We're talking strong winds, looking at some of the National Weather Service chat. We're looking at power outages already, widespread power outages in Charleston. Also plenty of lightning, still showing the strength of that. And now here's that center starting to work its way into portions here of Georgetown County. Going to be just to the south of Georgetown or right on it as we work even toward Andrews. So if you're in that area, just a heads up, want to give you the first alert on that. To the east of that center of circulation, we're starting to see these winds ramp up here at the Grand Strand. Rain continues to fall, though. Rain across Myrtle Beach, Little River. That rain, along with the wind, makes the rain feel like it's blowing sideways at times as that rain continues to drop. Once again, totals were estimated to be 4 to 6 inches there. Lake City, rain and tropical storm winds falling for you. If you're tuning in, you still have plenty of time to go. And also, I think a big thing for you is the flooding threat we're going to be looking at up there. Florence, rain working your way in that center of circulation, going to pass through Florence County. Now, that will continue to rapidly weaken, but you'll look at some of the heavy rain north of that center starting to push its way to the north across I-95 as we head toward 2, 3, even 4 p.m. for the afternoon. That rain continues to extend up into portions of Hartsville and even Marlboro County. Wind gusts at this point, we told you, Georgetown 47. Looks like we're starting to get some of the reports there of damage coming in. Of course, when we get that, we get more information. We'll be sure to send that to you. Notice 40 in Myrtle Beach, 46 in North Myrtle Beach, and down in the South Strand, the wind's starting to pick up. The storm surge is actually starting to pick up now. I want to send it out to Ian Klein. Ian, I know you've been watching this. You've seen the storm continue to roll in. What's the latest with you out there?
Yeah, we've been watching this storm surge pretty much come up the entire time. I've been trying to show you guys as much as we can. If you guys look as closely, kind of out here in the Garden City area, you're going to see pretty much the entire tide has come up over here onto the beaches, overtaking pretty much the entire beach itself. And try to zoom in. If you look closely down here, you'll see what kind of looks to be like a pier, pretty much just splashing over onto, I believe that's what the pool deck is over, I believe, near Sea Cloister or even Surfmaster down there as well. So definitely dealing with a lot of coastal flooding on this side. Now, nothing has actually breached over the dunes here this evening, but you can see a lot of the waves just making their way really just very strongly onto the coast here, as you guys have been talking about the storm surge here this afternoon, as well as combining with that high tide. We've been here at the Conch Cafe for several hours, where it's almost kind of becoming a party. A lot of people actually out here kind of wanting to get a view of this high tide as well. We've been telling you guys, though, stay indoors. We're out here because basically it's our job. We've been told to come out here, but it's one of those storms where, yeah, it looks cool, but if you can, you're going to want to be inside, especially as this water starts to rise here along Washington Boulevard. We'll keep you guys updated if any of this actually does start to breach over the dunes, but we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thanks so much, Ian. Let's go now to meteorologist Matt Bullock out there. You were out in Georgetown earlier where we already seen some damage to a home out there. What else are you seeing?
Well, Lauren, here's what I'm seeing. I'm right now here at the historic Riverwalk in Georgetown. And if you look behind me, I mean, just look at the water levels. To put this in perspective, many times I've been to the Riverwalk, you know, if you look down to like the surface where the water is, you know, it might be 2-3 feet deep. Now that's close to 6 to 7 feet due to that storm surge and also with the high tide coming in. And so let me show you, let me walk around. This area down here, this water right below me, usually on a normal day in the afternoon, and it's close to maybe about 3 feet deep. I can guarantee you this is at least 4 feet higher than normal. And so you see the boats rocking back and forth, twisting and turning. Notice a couple boats, one way off in the distance on the Sandpit River. Waves just keep hounding it as we get past like 5-10 minutes. Been watching that boat rocking back and forth, the waves just hitting over and over again. I wonder to see if it's either gathering like water inside it, because that could be a huge impact. So I'm just watching that small little boat. I see waves just crashing on top of it, and that's just building water on top of that. So that caught my attention. The winds are now starting to pick up. That wind gust, you know, feeling close to about 45 miles per hour. It has been a little bit lighter the past about 20-30 minutes or so, but compared to this morning at 10, I was by the Georgetown landing. I mean, we had insane winds there, where my anemometer, which is a little device where we pretty much measure wind speeds, it broke. It only goes up to 60 miles per hour. And so, you know, we saw more than 60 mile per hour winds earlier, and that can cause some damages to local downed trees, tree branches. It's still going to be gusty as Ian continues to push through. And so, I mean, gusty winds, you can tell right behind me, again, one more time, one good look of the historic Riverwalk, how high that water level has gone up. And to put this in perspective, on a normal day, at least the times I've been there, it's much lower. And so if I had to give you a good guesstimate, about 4 to 5 feet higher than normal. That's thanks to that storm surge and high tide. We'll keep you updated the latest details. Here in Georgetown so far, we've noticed some flooded roads on Front Street. That's been blocked off from police, so that's a good news. And another good news, and we're not seeing that many people on the roads. They're staying inside, staying hunkered down. So that's good news to hear. We'll keep you updated the latest details, what kind of changes we've seen, what I've noticed. So I'm sending you back in the studio.
All right, and a couple of things I want to point out. Matt was talking about a little bit of a break there in Georgetown. You can literally see it right on top of Georgetown. But I also want to talk about, I had a chance here to read some of the latest discussions coming out of the National Hurricane Center. The hurricane hunters have been flying around out here this morning, and some interesting things that they noticed. One, it is still a well-developed hurricane, and the northern eye wall now, the northeastern eye wall, which is this right in here, they sampled it pretty good, meaning they flew through it a couple of times and are finding hurricane force winds now in the northeastern eye wall as well as that southwestern eye wall. So there roughly is the eye right now. So Matt, heads up. Georgetown County, Georgetown, Debadoo, all the way up into the inlet. Let's assume, and it looks like this is now moving northwest. I think we've probably made that turn to the northwest. So you take this intense eye wall here, you start bringing that northwest. Georgetown, Myrtle's Inlet, again, Debadoo, Garden City, Surfside Beach. We've been highlighting those areas for the best chance of some hurricane force gusts, and that may indeed be on the way here as we head through the next 1 to 2 hours. We might even see this try to wrap and rebuild back around in this area. We'll have to keep an eye on that part to see if it can make its way up into the heart of the Grand Strand in and around Myrtle Beach.
I'm interested too because we know we have the blind spot on the radar there on the right, so I think there's more precip on the right side, and we're starting to see that as it advances toward the coast. Matt and Dustin, I know you're there in Georgetown. If you could just be ready for that wind gust will come your way. You'll notice there's the circulation working its way through. This is by far, outside of that report that was 50 feet above in Winyah Bay, going to be the strongest wind gust we've seen for the day, coming straight for, if not just to the south of Matt, in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, doesn't take a meteorologist to figure out. This thing has made the turn to the northwest. Yeah. We knew that was going to happen. We kind of thought it was going to be a little more of a gradual turn to the northwest, but it looks like it's making a pretty hard turn to the northwest now. So again, there's the eye coming in. There is the northern eye wall again. Hurricane hunters have sampled that area. There are hurricane force winds in there. There are hurricane force winds from basically Charleston Harbor out over the Atlantic. So if you consider that's moving its way to the northwest, we're going to push some of that nasty stuff right into Georgetown County. We may clip southern Horry County with the intense hurricane force winds. The rest of Horry County, the rest of the Grand Strand, you're going to get in on it because it may not be 75 or 80 out here, but there's probably some good 65 or 70 that are going to come pivoting in over the next few hours.
When we were talking about the 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts in the forecast a day or two before, we said the Georgetown landfall would be probably where the strongest is. I think this right here is going to lead to some big-time problems in an area that's already dealing with the worst storm surge we've seen. You throw 70, 75-mile-per-hour wind gust on shore, and I think we're going to see that problem continue. And you got to think 11:51, so high tide in the inlet in 7 minutes. And when we look at our Myrtle's Inlet camera, it continues to look worse and worse.
And let's talk about this band. We're not ignoring you folks up here in the North Strand. You're getting ready to get walloped pretty good as well. Look at that band out over the Atlantic right now. There's some intense rainfall and probably some 50 or 60 mile per hour gusts in those. Those are coming into Cherry Grove, Little River, Atlantic Beach. Just got a picture of the storm surge now and the coastal flooding taking place there in the Briarcliff community at that swash there. We've got a pretty decent storm surge taking place there. So that is going to pivot its way in. Conway, you've been gusting up around 50 miles per hour, and you're going to see a little bit more of that as well. Florence, you're in it. Hartsville, Darlington, Dillon, all of the PD. Your winds are gradually starting to come up now. Here are those latest gusts. Again, 51 in Conway. We may have lost power in Marion. Anytime you see a missing number, that means it's probably a power outages. But yeah, Florence already gusting to tropical storm force.
You mentioned power outages. I was looking. The ground was so saturated from the morning rain. We're now starting to see pine trees come down at the Hackler course. That's up in Conway, 51-mile-per-hour winds. The visibility continues. That salt water started to come on our camera lens, but you can definitely tell there's their storm surge working in.
I can't tell if that's maybe trash cans or something, or maybe one of these. That's the lifeguard stands. That's where they keep the chairs. That's little boxes they keep the chairs. It looks like some of those now starting to get washed into the dunes. So we're right about now coming up on high tide here in the beaches, and we're getting those dune breaches and coastal flooding as expected. Again, you can see those waves coming right up to the dunes. Hopefully, we don't get a lot more damage to our dunes, but it's coming through some of the dune fences here right in the heart of Myrtle Beach. This is the inlet. It looks like we're just about now getting water over Veterans Pier and Goat Island.
Yeah, and we was looking for that boat too. That boat was lost. I don't know where it is. Anymore, At this point, we've lost the visibility of that. But you'll notice this continues to pick up. Look at the gusts coming in Myrtle's Inlet. We talked about that band on the right side. I can promise you that number's about to go up, and I think we're going to see that water go up too in the inlet. Pawleys Island, prepare yourself for that. And when we're looking at radar, we're now looking, instead of a storm track being due north, it's going to be from the southeast to northwest as we're now starting to see that northwest turn. This is our tin roof camera.
You know, so we're
40 mile
looking
per hour
north.
wind
Yeah,
gusts.
we're looking north here from our tin roof camera. There's some folks out on the beach, but notice they're not walking out here where folks are normally walking. They're right up on the dunes, and looks like they're being stupid.
Yeah. At that point, you can't even see it here. The winds are just so powerful. I am told that we're seeing some of the damage come down from the inland areas from tropical storm force winds, and there's your tower cam.
Yeah.
Only the wind's going to crank up here in the Grand Strand in the next couple of minutes.
I think we have Eric Richards down in Pawleys Island with an update on what is going on down there. Eric, give us the latest.
All right, thanks so much. Just as Jamie mentioned, Eric, we have you now back out there in Pawleys Island. What do you see out there?
All right, guys, yeah, we're here at 17 and North Causeway Drive. Take a look at the palm trees there. You can see that this wind and rain is still coming down here in the Pawleys Island area. We've been seeing vehicles taking their time getting through this area as this rain continues to fall here. As we mentioned before, the causeway is closed now due to the Atlantic spilling over into the roadway. So right now, we can tell you that the rain has been.
Okay, thanks so much, Eric. Let's go to Ian Klein, who's out in Garden City. There you are. I can kind of see. There's a lot of people sending us pictures and videos of damage. We just got one from their pier. They don't believe it's going to make it. If you want to see these pictures, go on our website, too, and please submit them when it's safe to do so. But, Ian, what are you seeing out there right now? Okay, it looks like we're having some issues there. So let's go to Darion Henderson, who is in the studio right now to talk about power outages. What's the latest, Darion?
Yeah, Lauren, we're still the same. The power outages is widespread here. We're going to bring it on. Back on over to me. The power outages across the Grand Strand and the PD are pretty widespread as of right now. Again, we're still dealing with that power outage from a few hours ago that's happened out in the Aner area. More than 1,500 people are without power in that area. Down here in the Myrtle Beach area, more than 530. And in the Conway area and in around still, it's still that same amount. Now, when we go out, and that's with Ori Electric, when we go out to the PD area, we look at Duke Energy. It's the same thing out here. You talk about Florence, like Jamie was just talking about, with the tropical storm force winds and everything. You look at Florence, 1,000 people are without power. Latta, Lake City, you just look all around this map, you see more and more people without power in the PD area. That's with Duke Energy. We go over to Santee Cooper, which is down in our area, and we'll just go through the Grand Strand. Why not? We'll start up here near North Myrtle Beach, where we have 37 people without power. We go down to the Myrtle Beach area where we have 14 outages. This number actually went down a little bit. We have a little over 1,000. When I last checked in, and roughly about 20 minutes ago, it was roughly about 1,500. So they're getting people back on as soon as they can, but as you know, that does take time. We go here and the corridor, once again, of 17 and more 501 area. We have 724 people without power, about 5 outages in that area. Going down to Surfside Beach, where we know a lot of people stay there, 272 people are without power. Heading on down further in the South Strand, we have Merle's Inlet with 207 coming in, and then in Pawleys Island, we have 18 outages and a little over 1,100 people without power in that area. Like I've been telling you literally all morning long, do not call 911 if your power is out. The best numbers to call, we have them on the hurricane centers just right here. You can go to that. We have all the emergency numbers you can call to make sure that you get your power back on, to let them know that you actually have an outage. We're going to send it over to Ian Klein right now, who is out there. And Ian, what are you seeing in your area?
Yeah, we're starting to see the peak of this storm surge here in the Garden City area. We've watched a little bit of the water start to kind of breach over the dunes actually here near where we've been located, near Melody Lane and Waccamaw Drive. There's actually, most of the beach accesses have about 3 feet of sand that was built up kind of to try to keep the storms from coming over if the water were to actually start coming over into this area. However, this part that we've been at, there was actually nothing put in there to protect it, so we're starting to see a little bit of that tide water coming up and over and into the parking lot. Now the side we're on is pretty good, but the other side is starting to fill up quickly with some of that storm surge we've been telling you guys a little about. You're also seeing a lot more rain and wind, probably the most we've seen here this afternoon since we got here around 10 o'clock. Earlier there was actually people, believe it or not, on the beach walking. At this point, that's not going to be something you're going to be able to do as the tide is coming up completely over the beach. There's not a little bit of sand you're not going to see here this afternoon as the tides are coming up towards this peak surge with high tide as well. We've had quite a few people actually out here taking pictures, for the most part trying to stay safe, but a few of them in areas I probably would not want to be standing here this evening as the water levels have started to rise. But as far as major coastal flooding here in the Garden City area, haven't had any reports yet. We'll continue to keep you guys updated, try to head down towards Atlantic Avenue here in the next few hours as well, but we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, and I do want to talk about some of your pictures and your videos that are coming in. You are really helping us tell the story and kind of being our eyes out there for what is going on. We want to see these. I'm hoping we can take these full so you can see them a little bit better. This one is coming in from Garden City, I believe. I can't see the name up here at the top, so forgive me. But you can see Betsy Barno. Yes, Garden City side of Murrells Inlet. She says, our pier isn't going to make it through this. I don't think so either. That pier is really moving around and rocking and rolling. Let's play that again since we have it full so you can see it. That's kind of the issues that we're dealing with some of this storm surge. Look at the size of the waves out there on the marsh. Now remember, this is the marsh side of Murrells Inlet. We're getting those big white caps out there. Again, that pier probably not going to make it through the rest of the day. Let's show you a couple more that we have. We're starting to see more and more in the way of down trees. Noah Lyles, this is a tree down on Forest Drive in Loris. It took the power line down with it. We're going to see more of that. Stay away from those power lines. And notice now we're getting those winds strong enough. We're not just talking about dead trees or weak trees that are coming down. We're talking about trees that are alive. This is Briarcliff Acres. If you're familiar with that area, that's the swash that dumps out into the Atlantic right there in Briarcliff Acres. And you can see the storm surge starting to push its way into that area. Laura Pendley, thank you so much for that one. And I think we have a few more here with some of the flooding as well as some of the wind damage that we are continuing to see coming in across our area. Let's scroll on down a little bit more, show you a few more of those pictures. And again, it's kind of the same site everywhere. This is coming in from 76th Avenue North in Myrtle Beach. You're seeing the rough seas, and you can see down there at the bottom how we're just about ready to send those waves in through the beach access points. That one right there at 76 down to 74th and 75th, those are kind of some storm surge prone areas, so we may indeed see the water coming into the parking lots there at a lot of those beach accesses. Another point we're going to have to watch out for is there at Withers Swash at Family Kingdom. That's another area that's really sensitive to the storm surge. Let's go back to First Alert Doppler radar real quick, and then I want to talk about the storm surge and the numbers that we're looking at. We just got those updated. Let's show you, though, again, those numbers here. Sitting at 9.1 feet right now, so we're up into the moderate flood stage. The forecast has been bumped up a little bit more. Now 9.4 is the forecast. We're 9.1 now. Isaias was 9.8. For you new folks in town, we're referencing Isaias because that was our last fairly significant storm surge event, especially on the north end of the Grand Strand, where we flooded a lot of cars and lost a lot of piers there in and around Cherry Grove. So that's what we're going to be watching. If we start getting close to 9.8, then we're going to start to see more and more in the way of issues creeping up. We're not heading into the Matthew or the Hugo storm surge levels, but we are heading into levels that are going to be causing some problems as we head through the afternoon. We were talking to Matt Bullock down in Georgetown earlier. He was talking about a little bit of a break. Matt, we've been telling you it's going to ramp up and going to ramp up probably pretty quickly. How are things looking down there right now?
Yeah, Jamie, you're completely right. The winds have started to pick up the last 5-10 minutes, gusting up to 55, even 60 miles per hour. And at times we get that nice big breeze coming in. And luckily, I'm right behind the South Carolina Maritime Museum that's kind of blocking the wind, makes it easier to set the shot up. But look behind me as we look at the harbor, at the Riverwalk, you can see where the water level is. I mean, to put this in perspective, on a normal day, the water would be about 3-4 feet lower. So thanks to that high tide and storm surge, the water level just rose up about 4 feet, 3 to 4 feet. That's why I would give a good guesstimate. We're continuing to see those heavy rains. And then looking off towards our left, you can see how gusty the winds are from the sailboats. You can hear it just blowing really hard. And as you're saying, Jamie, it is, you told me that the wind's going to ramp back up, and you're right. It's starting to pick up. Along with that steady heavy rain, we're continuing to watch those waves continue to move up and down, rocking the boats. As the conditions continue to increase with the wind speeds, I'll keep you updated with the latest details and any changes what I've noticed here, especially with the water level continue to rise. I'm going to send you back in the studio.
Everything.
Thank you so much, Matt. Horry County Emergency Management has moved to OPCON Level 1. The Emergency Operations Center has been activated. The county is operating at full alert to address any impacts. Horry County Emergency Phone Bank is also activated. They're going to answer any questions or any concerns that you have. So don't call 911. Call this number right here. It's 843-915-5000. Again, that line is not for emergencies, so call 843-915-5000 for the Emergency Operations Center. And now North Myrtle Beach is currently operating also in UPCON 1 as of 9 this morning. City leaders there are telling residents to prepare for wind damage and storm surge. We've been seeing this with our reporters and the pictures you've been sending in. Everyone there should expect winds greater than 58 miles per hour. The winds are going to pick up shortly after noon, and we've been seeing that all throughout the afternoon so far. Between 2 this afternoon and 2 tomorrow morning is what they're saying. North Myrtle Beach is also expected to get 2 to 5 feet of storm surge, so watch out for that. And all public entrances at Conway Medical Center will be closed starting at noon, except for the emergency department entrance. The closure will last until 7 tomorrow morning. Leaders for the hospital previously announced they remained fully staffed today. However, some services are unavailable as Ian passes through. That includes, but it's not limited to, outpatient services such as surgery, endoscopy services, and rehabilitation programs. Primary pediatric and specialty care offices are also closed for the day. DHEC extended hours to help answer questions about health services and any medical needs. Shelters during Ian, that number is 855-472-3432. DHEC also prepared to perform post-storm dam inspections, deploy mobile teams to impacted areas, and conduct coastal assessments. DHEC extended hours to help answer questions about those health services, and that number 855-472-3432. And they're going to do all those dam inspections like we just mentioned and conduct coastal assessments. And today, President Biden approved an emergency declaration for our state. This authorizes FEMA to coordinate all disaster relief efforts to alleviate the hardship and suffering caused by Hurricane Ian. And that includes providing appropriate assistance to save lives and to protect property. Because of the strong winds, there's a chance your power is going to go out. We've been seeing that all morning, some coming back on, going back off again. The South Carolina Emergency Management Division has several tips for you in case you do lose power. First, never touch a downed power line, the tree limbs or other objects touching a power line. Also, don't tie generators into the house circuit. Instead, make sure you plug your appliances directly into the generator. If the power should go out while you're cooking, make sure you turn the stovetop off completely and remove any cookware from the cooking surfaces and oven. And don't open refrigerators or freezers during an outage unless it's absolutely necessary. Finally, if you smell gas, leave your home and call the power company as soon as possible. And you should stay off the road until Ian passes, but if you do have to go out, Georgetown police are sharing a few tips for you. First, expect some flooding, and never attempt to drive down any roads that are flooded. So if you approach a traffic light with no lights, treat it like it's a four-way stop. And if it's flashing red, treat it like it's a stop sign. If it's flashing yellow, drive, but with caution when traffic allows you to. Also, of course, be careful going over any bridges because of gusty winds, and do not call 911 to report a power outage. Instead, make sure you call your electric company. Only use 911 for any emergencies. Right now, take your phones out and take a picture of the screen. We're going to put something up there for you. That way, you have any information. You can download our WMBF News app. So we have some numbers, too, that you can call. We're looking at it. We'll get that for you in just a few minutes. That's okay. While you're being asked.
And welcome back. I'm Eric Weisfeld here to show you a little bit more about the power outages that we're receiving right now. And these are constantly fluctuating. One thing I want to show you here is with Santee Cooper, which is concentrated a lot in our area here at the Grand Strand. You can see as we go up the Grand Strand here from Myrtle's Inlet, where they have about 15 outages confirmed right now at this point, going up to Myrtle Beach, we're at about 14. And as we go a little higher to Arcadia Shores, they're about 3. So right now, this is not really the concentrated area. Unless you go a little down here to Pawleys Island, you can see there's 18 outages there. As we bring up Duke, which is a little more concentrated in the PD area, you can see they are significantly hit with power outages now. Right here near the Effingham area and Lake City, about 254, 1,000 right now south of Lynchburg, 272 over here in the Sumter area. So this is for Duke Energy, if that is your carrier. Also, as we take it to the, let's see, we have Ori Electric here, and again, you can see a lot of widespread outages. One quick reminder for you, do not call 911 if you have problems with your power. We do have on our website the phone numbers for you pertaining to which type of electric company is yours. They do not want you to call 911. I want to take it back to Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold now for an update on this storm.
All right, Eric, a couple of little new bits of information I do want to share with you right now. One, we may be an hour or so from landfall. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind putting this into motion, the eye of Hurricane Ian right about in there, and we mentioned kind of a hard left turn, may have been a little more of a wobble. It may be going more towards the northwest. Nonetheless, McClellanville into Georgetown, all the way up to Debadeau, going to be getting into that northern eye wall here. Another bit of information, hurricane hunter still out there, still finding that the pressure is dropping, and this looks surprisingly well developed for a hurricane this close to land and that's been fighting wind shear and dry air since it came off of Florida. That's a well-developed and very powerful still hurricane, and still getting lightning strikes out here near the Charleston area. The mouth of Winyah Bay, that's right about there where you go into the harbor in the bay there into Georgetown. There's a sensor. It's about 50 feet up in the air. They've been consistently at or above hurricane force, the most recent gust, as they're starting to get into that eye wall now, coming in at 87 miles per hour. And again, that's at 50 feet, but that brings up an important point. If you're here in Garden City, or if you're in Surfside, or if you're in Myrtle Beach and you're watching me right now from way up high in one of the condos, one of the towers down there on the beaches, remember, that wind up there where you are is going to be a lot stronger than it is down here. So that is one thing we're going to keep an eye on. The next thing I want to show you, Andrew, if you could pull this up for me, is, again, we're still updating that storm surge information. We're now getting really close to the Isaias. We're literally watching this minute by minute. So Isaias was 9.8. We're right now at 9.6. The forecast bumped up a little bit now to 10 feet. So coastal flooding and storm surge now going to put us on par with what we saw from Isaias. I think we also have some other breaking news that we need to get to in the middle of all this, apparently a fire. Let's go to the very latest on that right now with Ali Espinosa.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks for that. We are here on 100 Cedar Street in Myrtle Beach, about 10 minutes away from Market Common. Horry County Fire is actually here to my left. Ambulance is here, as well as Myrtle Beach Fire Rescue. They're here. They responded to a structure fire in these apartment complexes here. I'm going to step out of frame so you guys can see this active scene here. Now, we tried getting past the first responders, but as you can see, it is blocked off. They are still responding here. Crews have also told us that they've evacuated the people inside of that residence. As of right now, no reported injuries. A lot of residents who live here in this apartment complex are actually outside on their front doors, just looking to see what's going on, checking to see essentially what went down. Now, again, we will be looking for more information as it's provided to us. We will be sure to update you. For now, live in Myrtle Beach, Ali Espinosa, WMBF News.
Thank you so much, Allie. Well, you are being asked to stay off the roads today. If you do have to drive, an important reminder, remember, turn around, don't drown. We say it all the time. We say it every storm, every time it rains, turn around, don't drown. Do not drive through any kind of flood water or water pooled on the roadways. The water could be deeper than you think and moving at a faster rate than your vehicle can withstand. And your vehicle could be swept away, putting your life at risk and the lives of your passengers and the lives of the first responders who might be trying to help or need to rescue you. So also remember, there could be chemicals, live electrical wires, holes, other hazards below the water surface that you can't see. And don't forget, if you do lose power, you can still watch your certified most accurate weather team as Hurricane Ian passes through. We're streaming our coverage for you live on Facebook, Twitter, and even on YouTube.
All right, I don't know if Ian can hear us there. I think the wind may be being a little too loud. We'll go back to him as soon as he can. For now, I do want to show you some of the user-submitted photos, the viewer-submitted photos and videos coming from you. Notice this is Betsy. This is Garden City, the side of Merle's Inlet. We were showing that. Look at the dock from some of the storm surge that is starting to work through the area. Onshore winds, you can see that dock now completely submerged, and it's because of those winds continuing to work through the area. Notice wind speed still 40 miles per hour here in Myrtle Beach. We were talking about the left side of that storm. Notice Charleston, wind gust 59 miles per hour on the backside of this system. Once again, this now working to the northwest, looking like landfall will be either in Charleston County or Georgetown County within the hour as this now starts to work in. So what we're watching, not only the storm surge, but now the winds here in the Grand Strand about to shift out of the south and will allow some of that water to continue to rush in as we head into your forecast. I know we've walked you through, many people asking, when can we expect some changes? When can we expect this to die down? And you notice after landfall, this is going to continue to work its way off to the north. By 2, 3 p.m., we'll start to see that continue to tread to the north-northwest. From there, still the backside winds, something we're going to have to watch as we go into this forecast. This storm alone has had a history of producing tropical storm force, even hurricane force wind gusts on the backside. Hurricane hunters continue to investigate it at this time, and they're sampling some of the data. That way we know what can be expected as that eye wall continues to work on shore. Wind gusts locally, Florence, we're not forgetting about you. We know that rain's coming down. It's loud, wind gusts to 46 miles per hour, 49 in Marion, 35 mile per hour wind gusts in Loris. Tropical storm force wind gusts happening in Conway. And you'll notice that continues across Briarcliff Acres, North Myrtle Beach, and Myrtle Beach as well. Georgetown, 49 miles per hour on Matt Bullock down there in the Harbor Walk. But first, I want to send it over to Erica here as we're getting more reports here as the winds continue to ramp up as we approach here at 12:30.
Yeah, talking about those big winds down there in the South Strand, we're getting another report of those winds producing from Ian, taking a tree and knocking it down onto a home. And this is in Wachasaw Plantation in Merle's Inlet. Look at that. These pictures were sent to us by Sean K. St. John. And look at that. That is in Wachasaw Plantation, Merle's Inlet. Tree down, obviously coming from those strong winds. And those are some deep-rooted trees there. And such a scary situation. Hopefully everyone's okay. Now, police in Pawleys Island say the tide has covered the South Causeway all the way to Wyndham Drive. The area does remain closed off to traffic. So again, the South Causey Drive all the way to Wyndham Drive. The area is closed off. Moving on, Ian is already causing damage in the South Strand. We've been showing you that. Georgetown County posted this photo saying a downed tree in the Polly's Island area caused damage to this home. Midway Fire Rescue crews helped remove the branch and tarp the roof in order to prevent further damage from the storm. And check out these floodwaters in Surfside Beach. This is on Dogwood Drive between 4th and 5th Avenues North. That roadway is now closed with storm surge expected to increase in the coming hours. Remember, if you come upon a flooded street, turn around, don't drown, always play it safe. Okay, we're gonna head back out to Ian Klein, and he is on the South Strand. Oh, he's in Garden City right now. Ian, what's going on up there?
Yeah, we've continued to watch this storm surge this entire afternoon. Samuel, I don't know if you can show them just how much this has come up. We basically have what is the high tide and the storm surge coming together at once, coming over, basically just plowing over what is supposed to be that protective dunes in front of what now is the Conch Cafe. We've had several people actually coming out here to see just how massive these waves have gotten. If you look a little further down, we've also seen a lot of the decking that usually kind of opens up for most people's pools when they're staying at these condos. The rain and wind has kind of really been pushing up over those. We're starting to see a lot more ponding on the roads as well. And as you can see, kind of obviously with the rain coming down, the most we've seen here this afternoon here in the Garden City area. We're also trying to keep tabs on the pier. We've seen that video that Jamie Arnold was showing you a little while ago of the pier shaking back and forth. But if you look at how just strong these waves truly are, it wouldn't be surprising to see if we do start to see a little bit of damage from the pier. We actually just saw right now the waves coming up and over the dunes. Sammy, I don't know if you're able to show that as these start to come over. As we start to kind of watch what is supposed to be that protective layer for the inland areas here in the Garden City community, we're starting to watch those waves just get bigger, stronger, and faster, hitting up against those dunes, just churning it away. So it has not yet broke on the side where we're parked. We're currently good, but there is areas of Garden City that we're told that are starting to take on those water. Typically Atlantic Avenue. We are here on Waccamaw Drive. So right now, starting to see that peak. If you're in the area, try to get home as soon as you can. If you see any of the road closure signs, we've seen several Horry County police driving up and down, seeing if there's any type of road closures that they need to do. If you see those road closed signs, turn around, find an alternate route. Do not try to go around those signs. They're there for a reason. Just a little bit of water can easily sweep those cars away, and we're going to continue to keep watching. We just saw probably what was now the biggest wave we've seen thus far coming over the dunes here in Garden City. You can see right now, wow, look at that. Samuel, you catching that? Right over here, you can see pretty much the entire beach is covered by now what is the tides and the oceans taking over this portion of Garden City in front of the Conch Cafe. A lot of people out here have been taking pictures, things like that. But the other side of the parking lot already starting to fill pretty quickly. And we're just going to keep an eye out as this storm vastly approaches with the winds coming back up. And again, that storm surge that we've been telling you guys about right there, you've seen it front center for yourself, just how strong these waves are and how much damage they can do in as much time. Again, we've been sitting here for about 10 o'clock was when we came down. We went down to Folly Island earlier this afternoon. Not too much there, but starting to see that rain come down. Ever since we've been here in the Garden City area, we've watched a few people actually walking on the beach. That's no longer an option here, as you've just seen. Samuel, if you want to pan over again. Over here, those dunes pretty much just being taken over by the rain and by those waves, and again, that storm surge. But we'll send it back to you guys in the studio. If we have any more updates, we'll bring it back to you guys out here live in Garden City.
All right, Ian, thank you very much. This, Ian, no thank you. Starting to see kind of the worst of the surge underway right now. We have, at least at Spring-Made Pier, where we're getting our data from, we have now eclipsed what we saw from Isaias, and the beaches getting chewed up now. Here, unfortunately, right in the heart of the Grand Strand, you can see these dune breaches that are taking place. There's one of the ocean overwashes. Can we move the tin roof camera to that one? You guys can see that's an ocean access point. and that is not too far there from the tin roof sky cam. But you can see what we're dealing with here. We're getting the waves now. The surge is coming through these beach access points. So that's the kind of surge that we're dealing with, and we're unfortunately, I think, losing a lot of dunes across the Grand Strand right now. And you can see there's the next set coming through. You can see the fences that we put up there to take care of the dunes. Unfortunately, not really doing much to slow things down. There's that access, and you can see that it looks like there's a path there, and you can see the water flowing into that right now. There's the boardwalk here in Myrtle Beach. So the boardwalk is fine, but as far as the dunes, they are taking quite a beating here across the beaches right now. I think we've got another camera lined up. This is from atop our studios. It is just awful out there. Andrew, if you could line me up, I think I may have one other camera lined up in here. Let's do Sea Captains, because we were just watching, and I just tweeted this out, a picture from our Sea Captain's house Skycam. One of those small catamarans on the beach has broken loose. The lifeguard stands, they're kind of hanging on here, but we're also getting dune breaches in this area. You can see right there, again, the surge coming through the dunes. Now, in the heart of Myrtle Beach, we actually do okay with surge, but again, once we start heading into those really sensitive places, we're likely seeing some of those big issues. Last time, I'm going to ask you to do something for me, Andrew. Let's pull up the surge numbers that we've been keeping up with, and literally every time we talk about it, we're getting a new update. So now 9.7 feet, now 9.9 feet. Robert Whitehurst literally watching this by the second. So we're 9.9 feet right now. We hadn't even had time to update the graphic. Isaias was 9.8. We're at 9.9. Now, could it be a little bit lower up in Cherry Grove? Yes. Again, these numbers are coming at us from Spring-Made Pier. That's the only place we have an official measurement is at Spring-Made, but at least at Spring-Made, we have now eclipsed what we saw from Isaias. We keep bumping up our forecast, going to 10 feet. Still not close to Matthew. Matthew was almost 14 feet. The high tide right now, it's past us. It's about an hour past high tide, and the water is still climbing. So we're getting that push. We're getting that storm surge. The tide is trying to come out, but it looks like the surge and the push from Ian is winning. We've also seen Veterans Pier here in Murrells Inlet. It is underwater. There is Goat Island, also underwater. So the Marsh Walk itself is over here. You can't really see it. We no doubt have water there up on the Marsh Walk in Murrells Inlet. We're panning that camera around. Old Glory there, still hanging on pretty tight. But yeah, you can see water level now pretty much right on par, right at the same level here as the Marsh Walk. And we're still getting some big gusts down there in the inlet. And it is just ripping out there on the marshes. I mean, ripping with a northeast wind, 50, 60, and we've had some of those gusts, again, 70 miles per hour down at the inlet. These docks, again, are floating docks, so they're not in any kind of danger, but you can see the winds that we're dealing with. We've lost power in Charleston at the site. Looks like we may have lost power in Georgetown at the site. I want to take a quick second here, just kind of regroup myself. We're going to have to watch this. This is where we may have some of those strong hurricane force winds gusting over 75 miles per hour. The center's right about there, again, coming up northwest. Some of that's going to be pushed right into the inlet, right into the South Strand. And we're still going to get that strong wind coming in here as well to the North Strand. So Cherry Grove, Little River, you still got water that's going to be coming up here for just a bit. You guys there in the back, remind me again who we are pitching to, and we'll get another look at some of those locations out in the field. I think we have Erica.
Yes, you were speaking about Georgetown and those winds coming in. So we're going to check in with a reporter who's there now. Meteorologist Matt Bullock is there. He's in Georgetown. I believe he was on Front Street earlier. So, Matt, how are you doing out there?
Yeah. I mean, the winds are just howling here in Georgetown. I'm at the Harbor Walk, and what I noticed, the water level continues to grow. So on this patio I'm on, again, the water level, I'm just about, I'll say about an inch or 2 inches away from this water to reach onto this porch area. So the water level continues to grow in the past 30 minutes. And so it's continuing to grow. Not only that, I noticed, remember how about 30 minutes ago, I talked about that one little boat taking on a lot of water. Well, it is a boat. And if you can look down towards the little sailboat, there's two boats. And so I mentioned how a wave just kept crashing over this boat. Well, now that thing has turned to its side, and that boat is sinking right next to that sailboat as it continues to take on water. I mentioned 30 minutes ago that it looked like a dinghy boat, and waves are just crashing on it. The water was building onto the boat, but now with all that water building, it caused that little boat to turn to its side, and now it continues to take on water. And now I get a better picture of it. It's not a dinghy boat, it's actually a sailboat turned onto its side, and it continues to take on water. The winds are howling out here. Let me just tell you, we getting a couple wind gusts, feeling like tropical storm force winds, 45, 50 miles per hour. I mean, as what Jamie said, I mean, it is just ripping. About 10 minutes ago, we had a sailboat towards our left, and I heard a loud pop. And now I look at it, and the whole sail is just ripped into shreds. And so it's because of these very strong gusty winds. And with all the rainfall we saw this morning, again, it won't take much to knock down trees since the water, the ground is already saturated from the rainwater. It won't take much, these 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts to knock down trees that will cause some power outages. So if you have it now, make sure your phones are charged, make sure your tablets, your iPads, everything you have is charged up just in case of those tree branches or trees were to fall down in power lines. And if you are outside, you do see trees falling down in power lines, don't touch it because it could still be a live wire. Not only that, again, winds are starting to howl right now. This feels like tropical storm force winds, about 40, 50 miles per hour. But luckily, I'm right behind the South Carolina Maritime Museum, so it's kind of blocking most of the winds affecting us. But as you can tell, you can still feel it. The water level continues to rise here along the harbor. Again, I'm getting a better picture at this. Literally just maybe, we're just 1, 2, I think it's almost touching. I mean, like the water level is almost touching to this porch level. I mean, it's continued to rise. And as Ian continues to approach the South Carolina coastline, it's only going to grow. We passed high tide, but that storm surge, it's not stopping. And so we're going to continue to see this flood, probably comes a wind, continue to build across this porch area, this deck, probably in the next about 15, 20 minutes. I will not be shocked because I've just seen this water level continue to rise. And not only that, we're continuing on that one boat way off out in the distance. Now that turned over, still taking on water. Winds are howling. You see right across the harbor. Those really strong winds just ripping across the water. And so we'll continue to update about what this porch is once the water level continues to rise here at the harbor. But I'm gonna send it to you back in the studio. So I'll keep you updated with the latest details.
Thank you so much, Matt. And really quickly, we're getting some reports from the National Weather Service about multiple trees down across Florence County and also a tree down on a house in Pawleys Island. But this video right here is a look at wind and rain in Cypress Keys. This was captured by George Giovanni. And you look at that, you can just see the wind blowing through, whipping through, winds picking up. And it is always a concern when there's trees because you're concerned that they're going to stay in the ground. So, George, thank you so much for staying safe, but sending this video in to us. And that's in Cypress Keys. Okay, and these pictures were taken by our own Natasha Lagur along Ocean Boulevard. You can see damage shown here is from the Bermuda Sands Hotel, and you can always submit us your photos of damage to us, of course, when it is safe to do so. And if it is, do so through our WMBF News app, our weather app, and WMBFnews.com. And police closed the north and south causeways in Pawleys Island around 10:30 this morning. This is video from Michaela Evans of the Waters Rising. The disaster call center is set up there, so don't call 911. That number is 843-545-3273. And we're going to check in with Eric Weisfeld on power outages.
We're actually able to keep a tab in real time of the power outages. We're focusing on the three different main areas in the Grand Strand and the PD. So Santee Cooper, Ori Electric, mainly in the Grand Strand here in the Myrtle Beach area. We also have Duke Power, which is Duke Energy, which is in the PD area. And right now I want to focus on, as we look at Santee Cooper, I've watched here in Pawleys Island, just north of that, Litchfield by the Sea, we have noticed we are now at 21 outages there. I've actually watched that jump. Started about 10 minutes ago, we had 16, then jumped up to 19. Now we are at 21 power outages in the Pawleys Island area, so an increase there. Surfside Beach has about 16, also high. Myrtle Beach is next up with about 13 outages there. So again, this is the Santee Cooper website in real time showing you the power outages. As we move over here to Duke, we can see a lot of, this is really where a lot of the power outage is. 1,000 outages reported here in the Turbyville area, also just north of Effingham. We have another one here, which is just south of, that's a big area there, south of Effingham and north. In the Marion area, look at that, we have about 2,000 reported outages in that area. And as we go over here into this is the Ori Electric area, so again, focus a lot on the Grand Strand, and some of the numbers that pop out here is due west of Conway. Look, just jumped up from 184 to 209, and then here, this is far west of Loris, and then south of Mullins, you have about 253 outages reported there. I do want to point out that if you have a power outage, we are asking that you do not, and officials are asking that you do not call 911, reserve that for the emergencies in this time, but there are some numbers that you can call, and this is just pulled up from our website, WMBFnews.com. You can see right here, Santee Cooper, Ori Electric, Duke Energy, PD Electric, they are all listed there. And again, you will find those numbers as you scroll down on our webpage, WMBFnews.com. All right, now let's get to some of the pictures. Right now, if we go to Twitter, this is Andrew Dockery's page, and he has a lot of pictures that have been submitted in. Take a look at this. This is a tree down in Florence. This is on Gregg Avenue. This is the reason why you want to make sure your vehicles are secure, and you are secure as well, because this storm is not messing around. Look at that, ripped right off of that huge trunk and just burying that vehicle there. And if we go for a little further down, we can see some more pictures. This is video taken from the surge here from Tim. We appreciate that. And right here is the water coming up fast. They say in Pawleys Island. Again, remember, Pawleys Island is the area that had so many power outages. That is the one I'm seeing increase at the fastest rate. Right now, we have 46-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Murrells Inlet. This is a very strong storm, and again, as Jamie and the entire weather team have been telling you, the wind gust, that's probably going to be the biggest factor here in this storm, not necessarily the amount of rain, but the amount of wind, and it is powerful. I can tell you, just driving in from the north side of Myrtle Beach today, about an hour ago, I noticed a lot of limbs down, and I noticed a lot of gusting wind. Now, if you would like to submit a photo, and that is if it is safe enough for you to do so, of course, our priority here is to keep you safe, but if you're able to, you can do so by going to our webpage, you can go to our weather app, you're able to submit a photo there. Take a look at this, Murrells Inlet. The seagulls are grounded there. They are smart. Hopefully they'll get under some cover as well. This is the gate, which is right off Homestown Road. You can see the tree there is going over on top of the house. A lot of limbs down in the yard as well, and as you see, this tree house as well, affected by this storm. A lot of damage we are going to see, mainly in the form of a lot of trees coming down because, again, of these gusting winds. Feeling it in Myrtle Beach, they say. And also, this is an impressive one right here. Tree house down, look at that. Again, we're seeing a lot of trees that are hitting homes. This is the one we showed you just a little bit earlier. This is Myrtle Inlet. This is the Waukesha Plantation. She says, my tree just fell right on my home. We don't want you to have any injuries reported from the storm. We would just, first and foremost, take this seriously, stay indoors, stay away from the windows, and Surfside Beach, another truck buried. If you can see right there, the tree is over on that truck. So again, if you have an emergency with your power outages, do not call 911, rather go to our website, get those numbers there. They are all listed for you on our website, so you don't have to tie up those lines. And feel free to please submit video or pictures to us through our website or through our web weather app. That is when it is safe for you to do so. Please be safe out there. Let's send it back to Erica Edwards now, who is now in our studio.
Thank you so much, Eric. We're going to check back in with Andrew Dockery with the latest information on Ian.
Things that are coming through. Current wind gusts continue to show across the region. If we could get weather one up when we get a second, because I do want to start to show you a tornado threat that looks to be developing just across the border into North Carolina. Of course, we look at the wind gusts. You'll notice the winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour in Myrtle Beach, 49-mile-per-hour wind gusts there out in the Atlantic with that buoy. and even some 39-mile-per-hour wind gusts showing up in Moncks Corner, 46 in Conway, and 32 in King Street, 32 in Oak Island, 54 at the Bowie. If we could pull up Weather 1, we do want to take you to a tornado warning that is in Brunswick County. And the only reason I want to show you this is because now storm motion starting to work to the northwest. This is going to be a storm we need to keep an eye on just closely. Tornado warning now issued for Brunswick County until 1 p.m. The National Weather Service and also the Storm Prediction Center now talking about issuing a tornado watch just to the northeast of us at this point. I don't think it will include our area. I think it's going to be just across the border, but that's something we're going to be watching. I just want to kind of reset this. Robert Whitehurst is in as well. We'll go to him in a couple of minutes, but let's just take a look at the bigger picture where some of the rain is starting to fall. And I know many of you reading some of the comments have continued to look at some of the loud wind moving through and that heavy rain across the region. Don't want to lose sight that as we're taking a look at Ian close, even closer now to making landfall. That landfall looks like it's going to be in Charleston County now with a northwest motion as that continues to push to the area. Heavy rain extending across 17 bypass, across 501. Blankets of rain coming down from Conway to Myrtle Beach, and that wind continues to ramp up. Pawleys Island now starting to catch that outer band of the center of circulation working its way into Georgetown. That's where Matt Bullock is. We continue to see the water rise there at the Harbor Walk. We continue to look at the onshore winds now starting to create that storm surge and continuing to cause the issues in the rising water levels. In Florence, we haven't forgot about you. Tropical storm conditions continue with some of the heavy rain coming down across portions there in Florence, in Quinby, in Pamplico, in Lake City, in Johnsonville, Hartsville, Darlington. That rain continues to fall. Might be light now, but you have some heavier bands to the south that are going to be working in. Marion, that rain now starting to work in across portions, soon to be right along 501 in Marion, and that continues to push through. Want to kind of just take a look at some of the cameras that are showing up. We continue to see these dunes being breached by some of the storm surge that is moving in. Right now, wind gusts of 40 miles per hour. At the Marsh Walk, same story. Notice rough conditions. Wind gusts now 54 miles per hour. Wind down to the northeast at 31. This is just an idea of the conditions outside as we continue to look at that. We've been watching the storm surge work its way over the dunes. You can see that continuing to happen here as that continues to climb through the area. That is also starting to see some of the water running over top of the dunes and into the area. Of course, coming up, we'll go to Robert here with a look at that storm surge across the region. And then notice in Florence, like I said, we haven't forgot about you. Check this out. Gust 51 mile per hour wind gusts starting to show up. We're looking at winds out of the north at 33. They're just to the north in Florence. There's still a lot of rain to come your way. Want to make sure we say that. I do want to send it over to Erica because I think we're going to go over to Ali Espinoza here in a second. Erica, I'll send it your way and let you direct wherever we're going.
Yeah, we are going to check in with Ali Espinoza. She's in Myrtle Beach on Cedar Street where crews were responding to a structure fire. Ali, what's the latest there?
That's right. We're at the Carolina Breeze Apartments where Myrtle Beach Fire and Horry County Fire Rescue responded to a structure fire just over here behind me to those back apartments. Now, what they've told us, or at least what residents here have told us, is that they believe a transmitter actually exploded. Some of those residents here we've spoken to, they've told us that they don't have any power. That's why we've seen a couple of them out on their front patios just looking around, seeing what's going on. Another issue we've seen here at this apartment complex right over here to my right hand side, you can see this area, this parking lot is starting to flood. When we got here about 10 minutes ago, it was nowhere near, the water was nowhere near this high. So just be aware if you do live here in these apartment complexes that this area is definitely starting to flood. As of right now, Myrtle Beach Fire has not put out any additional information about this structure fire. We do know, though, that those people who lived in that apartment complex were evacuated. As of right now, no injuries have been reported. For now, live in Myrtle Beach, Ali Espinoza, WMBF News.
we're continuing to watch those winds switch back onshore here this afternoon, this morning, and we'll continue to see the warmer weather moving in. Temperatures have been in the cooler side, but now that the winds are turning back onshore, it's going to help to bump the temperatures up here a bit over the next couple of hours. What that will allow is a little more fuel to roll in. And we've started to see a few storms with some signs of rotation up through North Carolina, far southeastern North Carolina. Brunswick County had a tornado warning earlier. The tornado watch has now been issued for a good chunk of southeastern North Carolina, but also including Horry County. And we'll likely see the threat there continue, at least for the next couple of hours, as you continue to bring those rain bands in and the temperatures start to climb. Wind gusts, they are still pushing well into the 50s at times here along the Grand Strait and just offshore. And with the winds also moving back onshore, it's helping to continue to bump up those surge values. We've seen those numbers increasing as those winds are now switching. They were coming back out of the north, so kind of running parallel to the coast, now starting to switch onshore. So while the tide is starting to go out, the wind's switching back onshore, helping to keep it in and not really allowing it to drop. I do think we're getting close to the top end of those surge numbers, so we should hopefully see some improvements over the next hour or so, but it will be a slower drop despite the tide now heading towards low tide as we go for the next hour or so. And it's these onshore winds and these gusts that are pushing 30, sustained, gusting into the mid-50s in Murrells Inlet. You can see some breakers. This is the marsh. This is not the ocean. You can see how high the marsh is. And with the winds out there, actually getting some waves going. And it's now covering here the pier as those water levels had continued to increase. The high tide in Murrells Inlet coming up in the last 5 or 10 minutes. So we're nearing the peak here, hopefully, although, as I mentioned, the onshore winds are helping to keep the water in there, having a tough time getting out. A live look here along the Grand Strand. We've been seeing the surf getting through some of these walkways in the dunes and flooding the kind of pathway here in between the two dune lines. This has continued to cause some erosion issues here with the onshore winds helping to push the surf in. And here comes one of those waves now starting to push over the dunes here, and that will continue to be an issue until the levels begin to drop a bit. We are currently sitting at 10.1, very close to major flood stage. These are recorded at Spring-Made Pier. 10.1 puts us still a couple feet below Matthew, but Isaias, we're now above that level. We'll probably see a little bit of a climb here to continue. We've been pushing these numbers up as the surges continue to increase. Now, as we head through the next, let's say, 1 to 2 hours, despite the onshore winds, we'll start to see some improvements here as the winds and the tide start to go down. We've also seen those issues down at Polly's Island. Again, same issues. It's not from the rainwater, it's from the surge, the flooding across the island. The causeway is flooded, and it's pretty well in line here. What our surge forecasts have been showing those issues. That high tide, 11:24, so about an hour and a half ago, hour 15 minutes, we're continuing to see those issues here as well. Hopefully, as I mentioned, as the tide starts to accelerate downward, hopefully that will start to overcome those onshore winds and we'll start to see some improvements. Erica.
All right, we're getting some information just into the newsroom that traffic lights in downtown Myrtle Beach are out, and so keep an eye out for that. And also getting lots of reports from the National Weather Service right now. Midway Fire Rescue reporting about a rescue from a house on the 300 block of Myrtle Avenue in Polly's Island, saying water is in the first floor of the house, and then also in Georgetown, and we've been seeing Matt Bullock there all morning. Part of Front Street is now closed because of water on the road in Belle Isle. There's also been some issues there, wind damage reports, and a neighborhood near Georgetown with trees and power poles down. So we're going to continue to keep you updated as soon as we get any more information for you about those. Horry County Emergency Management has moved to OPCON 1, Level 1. The Emergency Operations Center has been activated. The county is operating at full alert to address the impacts of Ian, and Horry County Emergency Phone Bank is also activated. That's to answer any of your questions and concerns. Instead of calling 911, make sure to call them. This number is 843-915-5000. And again, do not call 911. This is not for emergencies, so you can call the emergency operation line at 915-5000. And North Myrtle Beach is currently operating at OPCON 1 as well. As of 9 this morning, city leaders there are telling residents to prepare for wind damage, storm surge. Everyone needs to expect winds greater than 58 miles per hour. And the winds already picking up even more so in between 2 and 3 this afternoon and 2 tomorrow morning. North Myrtle Beach also expected to get 2 to 5 feet of storm surge. And Georgetown County Emergency Operations Center is fully activated. All emergency response personnel activated as well. And Georgetown's mayor is also asking for everyone to stay home while Hurricane Ian hits. And she says Governor Henry McMaster called to offer any assistance. And you know what? We're going to actually hear from the governor right now. Let's go ahead and listen in.
All right. Thank you very much. We have Holly May signing again. Larissa Martin is here with us. Chaplain Davis.
Psalm 37, verse 23 and 24. The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand. Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we know that you are with us in both the calm and the storm. Even when the disciples began to fear, Jesus showed he was Lord over the waters. We ask that you would calm the wind and the waters of the approaching hurricane and spare those in the path from harm. Open our hearts in love and generosity to all who need help in the coming days. In all things and at all times, with us, guiding us to safety. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Okay, John Quagliarella, National Weather Service.
Thank you, Governor. John Quagliarella, National Weather Service. Hurricane Ian's landfall is imminent along the northern Charleston County coast. As of the Hurricane Center's 11 a.m. advisory, Ian was a Category 1 hurricane with 85-mile-an-hour winds, and we should be getting an update on its position here within the next hour or so. The impacts of Hurricane Ian are already ongoing across the state. Peak wind gusts as of noon have reached 83 miles an hour at Fort Sumter, 73 miles an hour at Folly Beach, 68 miles an hour at Murrells Inlet, 58 miles an hour at the Charleston Airport, 55 miles an hour at Georgetown, and 53 miles an hour at North Myrtle Beach. The strongest winds will occur into this evening across the northern Charleston Tri-County area, up through the Grand Strand and PD, with areas along the coast near where Ian makes landfall potentially seeing wind gusts up to 80 to 90 miles an hour, and 50 to 70 miles an hour farther inland along the track. Tropical storm force winds will extend west through the Midlands. These winds have already downed numerous trees and power lines across parts of the state, and these reports should become more widespread as Ian shifts inland and the destructive winds develop. Storm surge flooding is already ongoing as well across much of the South Carolina coast, with reports of inundation in many coastal communities, especially along the central and northern portions of the coast. Peak surge values of 4 to 7 feet of inundation are expected north of Isle of Palms, with lower values south of there, generally up to 2 to 4 feet. Storm surge flooding will be most problematic through mid-afternoon, but could certainly linger through the evening. Areas in and around McClellanville, Georgetown, Debidu Colony, Pawleys Island, Garden City, Litchfield, and Cherry Grove will be most affected. The storm surge will occur along the ocean front, the back bays, and tidal creeks. Coastal roadways could temporarily become impassable. Heavy rain is also ongoing, with many flash flood warnings right now in the Charleston Tri-County area. The flooding threat will continue into this evening, especially with the torrential rainfall, the high rainfall rates that we're seeing right now with Ian. Everyone's reminded that if you encounter a flooded roadway to turn around, don't drown. And finally, there's an increasing threat of isolated tornadoes, mainly in the far northeast part of the state where a tornado watch has now been issued. Conditions should improve across the state late tonight as Ian weakens and lifts to the north. So again, please seek higher ground if you're in a flood-prone location along the coast, and do not drive through flooded roadways. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll answer questions as we go through the team. As I speak, the center of Hurricane Ian is approaching the coast of South Carolina, just above Charleston, mainly from Bulls Bay up through Myrtle Beach. I've spoken to a number of the mayors in those areas, and they are well prepared. The Grand Strand, particularly right now, is seeing very rough seas. Also, behind the Grand Strand, the water is backing up because it can't get out behind the beaches and behind the creeks. But this is not as bad as it could have been. A lot of prayers have been answered, but I would ask people don't quit yet because it's still coming. We are not out of the woods. I remind people, as John Quirello just said, there's water on the roads. We've seen photographs of it that people have been sending us, the mayors and others, and it's still very dangerous. And there's still winds even where there's not much water in other parts of the state. So if you don't need to go outside in the wind right now, stay inside. If you don't need to drive anywhere, don't drive. Be careful and be smart. So far, fortunately, no deaths have been reported to us as a result of the storm. But there are still life-threatening conditions, and we need to continue to be very careful. I note that in Charleston, they have, according to Mayor Tecklenburg a little while ago, they have about 6 to 12 inches of water in the hospital district. That's much less than was expected. The low wall around the battery was not overrun with water. That is very good news. High tide in Myrtle Beach was at about 12:30, and so we know the water is high there. The winds are high, and as I said before, a lot of water is being trapped inland and can't get out because of the winds and because of the currents. But right now, when the storm seems to be receding in certain parts of the state and is moving on to others at hurricane speeds, this is when people normally get careless, get hurt, and unfortunately often lose their lives. So don't forget that human error is the deadliest thing that we have. Misjudgments, miscalculations, carelessness. So be careful and be smart. I spoke to President Biden this morning. He was fully aware of our situation. He promised whatever help we needed. And you would like to know, of course, he's been here before, and he says South Carolina is a beautiful place. And, of course, I agreed 100% with that. So that is our situation so far, and we have a number of people to speak and provide details. And we'll start with General Jeff Jones.
Thank you, Governor. Major General Jeff Jones, the Deputy Adjutant General. Right now, the South Carolina Military Department, which comprises our Army Guardsmen, our Air Guardsmen, and our State Guardsmen, and our civilian employees, they are poised to continue to respond to our state and local partners and the people of South Carolina. Currently, we have 90 Guardsmen on state active duty. They are positioned forward, primarily performing high water vehicle support, and we are poised and prepared to shift operations in response to any request to any mission statewide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General. Kim Stinson.
Thank you, sir. Kim Stenson, Director of South Carolina Emergency Management Division. The State Emergency Operations Center is currently at Operating Condition 1, also known as OPCON 1. This is our highest level of alert and response, and we are now fully staffed with a number of state agencies and voluntary organizations 24 hours a day until this event curtails. Right now, priorities include support to counties and responding to transportation, sheltering, supply, and equipment missions. We're also planning for damage assessment and follow-on recovery operations. We continue to work closely with the local authorities to share information and identify unmet needs. We've only received a few requests for support, but they include high water vehicles, swift water rescue teams, and shelter support. In the near term, we expect to receive additional requests for debris management assistance, generators, and also damage assessment. Damages have been light so far, with basically reports of downed trees and localized flooding, mostly along the coast, but we expect that to build over the afternoon. The governor mentioned talking to President Biden, and last night we received a federal emergency declaration which will allow us to seek reimbursement for response costs and any direct federal assistance we might request. And that emergency declaration is different, is not the same as a major disaster declaration, which we requested after the completion of any damage assessment that we would do and potentially provide funding for both infrastructure and repairs and assistance to individuals and families. So the emergency declaration is fairly limited, but it does give us some advantages, certainly at this point. As the storm moves through South Carolina, residents should keep in mind a couple of key points. One is to stay tuned to local television and radio stations for emergency information. Certainly stay inside a well-constructed building, and then try to limit your non-emergency calls to keep that grid open, and use text messages if you've got non-emergency calls. So, reminder: citizens can use scemd.org and the South Carolina Emergency Management app on your phone to keep up to date on disaster information. And we encourage you, citizens that receive damage, to go ahead and report damage through that app, that South Carolina Emergency Manager mobile app. And then the damage assessment report is on the tools section of the main menu, so it's pretty easy to get to. I checked it out last night. Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Director Nanette Edwards.
Thank you, Governor. Nanette Edwards, Executive Director for the South Carolina Office Regulatory Staff. So around 10:30 this morning, statewide, we had outages of around 32,927. As around 12:25 today, we're already over 69,000. I do anticipate that those outage numbers will climb. The crews are standing at the ready, and they will go out and do restoration efforts, but only when it's safe to do so. So when those winds get to about 30 miles per hour, the crews that are out there, you will see them pause. So for customers who currently have power, because I expect the number to climb, please do take a moment and charge your phones, do those things that you need to do while you still have some power. For those that are experiencing an outage, do notify your utility so that they are aware. And if you are out and about for some reason, stay away from downed power lines. If you do have a customer complaint, contact ORS toll-free at 1-800-922-1531. That concludes my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Secretary Hall, Department of Transportation.
Thank you. I'm Christy Hall, the South Carolina Secretary of Transportation. We currently have more than 2,100 employees working this event. As of now, we've responded to more than 200 downed trees across the state that's been removed in order to re-clear the roadway and enable the utility providers to get back in and do the work that they need to as well. We will continue to do that as the storm passes through the state. We are also aware of water on some of the roadways across the state. There are currently no major closures that we are aware of. However, we are closely watching with the local officials some of the causeways in the areas that John Q mentioned, really north of Charleston, all the way up to Myrtle Beach area. As mentioned earlier, we urge people to avoid travel, if at all possible, today as the storm works its way through the state. And Governor, that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Ben Duncan.
Thank you, Governor. Ben Duncan, Chief Resilience Officer, South Carolina Office of Resilience. We are staying ready at this time to assist citizens who may have damage or may have some need for assistance from the hurricane. We help with short-term problems. We help with long-term problems. And we are here until we take care of those problems for you. We're here to assist the governor. We're here to help citizens. And we provide information that you may need in the short term or long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Emily Farr.
Thank you, sir. Emily Farr, Director of the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation. Throughout this event, the agency, through its division State Fire, has been prepared should any search and rescue efforts be needed. Earlier this week, we mobilized Task Force 1 with collapse and water rescue capability at the State Fire campus here in Columbia, so that we were prepared to back up the regional search and rescue teams that are located in Charleston, Hilton Head, and Myrtle Beach. Last night, North Charleston did request 2 boat teams, so we did deploy Task Force 1, and they arrived there at about 10 p.m. last night. We backfilled those teams by requesting 2 boat teams through firefighter mobilization, and Anderson County and Oconee County answered that call, and their boat teams are now here in Columbia, ready to deploy if needed. As well, the State Fire Marshal, Chief Jonathan Jones, continues to make contact with the fire chiefs along the coast to make sure that they do not have any unmet needs. We appreciate all of the first responders who volunteer and stand ready to ensure South Carolina is prepared if any search and rescue is necessary. And just remind those viewers, if you ever do find yourself in an emergency situation needing those sort of assistance, to dial 911. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Mike Leach, Department of Social Services.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Michael Leach, South Carolina Department of Social Services. Currently, we have 5 shelters open across the state. All are general population shelters. 2 are in Charleston County, 1 in Jasper County, 1 in Orangeburg, and 1 in Williamsburg. As of noon today, we have a total population of 119 individuals in our shelters. Our current total capacity is 759, and so we are about 15% of that capacity. All locations are resourced. DSS staff, Red Cross volunteers, law enforcement, and other volunteer organizations are currently engaged in that mission. There are 0 medical needs shelters open at this time, and we recommend anyone who needs a shelter to bring blankets, sleeping bags, pillows, medications, any personal hygiene or personal items, or special foods if you're on restricted diet. And shelter information could be found at scemd.org or redcross.org, or contact your local county emergency manager.
Thank you. Director Rob Wood, Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. I'm Rob Woods, Director of the South Carolina Department of Public Safety. Beginning yesterday, we deployed law enforcement officers from the state throughout South Carolina in anticipation of higher calls for service on U.S. highways, interstates, and other highways throughout the state. We have, in fact, seen an uptick in calls for service starting last night. We were over 90 calls for service from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. this morning, and we're currently over 131 calls for service from 6 a.m. until noon today. And those calls for service were primarily for assisting motorists and for trees and other objects in the roadway. As it stands now, we have over 300 law enforcement officers from the Department of Public Safety, from SLED, Triple P, and DNR who are patrolling the highways. We'll have those folks out there with the expectation that those calls for service will continue to increase as the storm moves ashore. Again, and just to echo the advice given by Secretary Hall, given what we see with these increased calls for service, with these increased traffic incidents, please stay off the roadways until the storm passes. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, sir. Doctor.
All right, that was the latest information coming in from Governor McMaster and the state. I do want to kind of reset where we are right now with Hurricane Ian. Brand new tornado watch now in effect for Horry County, Marion County, Dillon County, into Robeson County. That's kind of where the dirty right front quadrant of the storm is going to work its way through here over the next few hours. Still think the greatest risk is just across the border, but that's something we'll be watching closely. I think more importantly here, as we reset things, is the storm surge. It has been very impressive. We are now getting very close to major storm surge values. Now, again, as you've been following these numbers with us, this is coming from spring-made Pier. We're about an hour and a half or so past high tide now. We're starting to see the climb slow down, but coming in at 10.4 feet, we have now beat Isaias, and at spring-made Pier, third highest storm surge on record from Ian, now coming behind Matthew and, of course, Hugo. We continue to see the sights from all of our sky cams across the area. The dune breaches continue. If you've been watching us all morning long, these dunes were in pretty good shape. Now they're basically flat. This is a pretty decent area for dunes in the beach, so no doubt other areas are faring much worse. And you can see just a tremendous amount of energy behind these waves And we still, there you go, look at that, just absolutely overtaking the dunes here in the Grand Strand. And the thing is, we're getting a little lull in the wind now here on the beaches. I think we're about to see the real core of things starting to pick up, so we may have an additional push that really chews up the beaches. This is really hard to watch when you see the beaches taking a beating like that. Down towards the inlet, this is Veterans Pier. The camera's shaking a lot, but you can see the water over Veterans Pier. Looks like it's about waist deep on the marsh walk. We're still getting those strong wind gusts, 40, 50, and at times 60 miles per hour. It's kind of hard to see if there's any other damage there around Murrells Inlet because the camera's shaking too much. The visibility is low. This is the view, I believe, from our tin roof sky cam. And again, what we're looking at here are the dune breaches. That is where we are seeing the surge come on through. I haven't heard anything, but I imagine we may have water getting up and over Ocean Boulevard there at Family Kingdom. We've got the public beach accesses up around 76th Avenue in the Grand Dunes area that are now getting flooded because of the storm surge. So any of those typically vulnerable spots are seeing some pretty significant surge. Interior Horry County, basically west of the waterway, you're socked in with very heavy rainfall right now. It's kind of quiet right along the immediate beaches, catching a little bit of a break, but there is more to come. Now, earlier we were talking about that potential landfall. What we may have seen was more of a wobble that Ian took. I don't think we're seeing official landfall maybe for another hour or two. Right now, the center, the hurricane hunter's been out here. This is Bulls Bay, that little notch right there. That's Bulls Bay, north of Charleston. That's Francis Marion Forest down through there. The center literally just east of there, kind of hugging the coast right now and working its way to the north. And again, it may just kind of wobble its way to the north here as we head through the next couple of hours. There's that break we have in the beaches, but it is dumping and it is blowing across interior sections of Horry County right now. It is also dumping and blowing in Florence. We're getting more and more reports of damage now across the PD with trees coming down and those power outages beginning to ramp up. I think we have a couple of crews out and about in the area. You guys in the back, if you can, let me know. Who's next? Ian. Let's go to Ian, inappropriately named today as we cover Hurricane Ian. Down there in Garden City, Ian, I'm not sure if you can hear me. By your best guess, if you can hear me, does it look like the water is still coming up there in Garden City?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is still coming up. As you can see, this truck turning around here. They have blocked off Atlantic Avenue. Now, Samuel, if you're able to shoot down, this is quite impressive. Since the storms we've covered in the past year, Jamie, I've never seen the storm surge actually overtake Atlantic Avenue and that entire bridge. So basically the two sides of the marsh are essentially have become one as the water's completely coming over it, heading into the side basically where the Garden City Pier sits. We've seen several trucks attempt to go around, but I think making their best judgment to quickly turn around. We actually were parked over here by this Sarah J's sign not even 10 minutes ago. You could see the parking lot, you could see the grass. We actually had to move our car very frantically and very fast because of how quickly the water was moving. Even where we're parked now, there was pretty much dry ground on here, and it has risen just from basically nothing to now my ankles within just a matter of 5 minutes. So this shows you just how fast this water is rising and how powerful this water is. If you look at really how that current is coming across what at one point was the Atlantic Avenue Bridge heading towards the Garden City Pier, it's just a massive current basically heading towards the inlet right now. And basically behind Sarah J's is another marsh itself. The parking lot of Sarah J's, which when we arrived here, I'd say no more than 10 to 5 minutes ago, was not submerged. It's now submerged underwater. You can see right here the stop sign as well, Atlantic, Seacrest. There's about a foot of that stop sign that's currently underwater right now. So just to show you how fast this water is moving and how fast this water is rising, we're actually going to have to move our car here within the next few minutes as it's starting to rise here fast. So we're going to send it back to you in the studio while we get to a safer location.
All All right, Ian, be safe out there. Good afternoon to you. Eric Weisfeld here alongside my co-anchor, Rachel Bogle. As we continue our team coverage here, we are really starting to see things ramp up.
Yeah, absolutely. As we just saw there with Ian preparing to move the vehicle because that water is rising so quickly there in Atlantic Avenue.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's too late for that, so that's why we ask you to move those vehicles ahead of time, right?
That's absolutely right. All right, now we want to get right over to Ali Espinosa in Myrtle Beach. She's right near Sea Captain's house. Now, Ali, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, we're here in downtown Myrtle Beach. We're right next to Duffy's. Now, the first thing I want you guys to take a look at is the ocean here. The waves have gotten really crazy since we first got here. We actually walked down to those steps right over there where you see those two people actually taking photos of the area. And the water is actually right at those bottom steps when you approach them. The dunes are completely washed away from those waves as well. Now, one thing we've also noticed is that the rain has actually stopped, at least in this area that we're in right now. The wind is still picking up every so often. It kind of comes in sporadic periods, but it's still extremely windy. That's all I have for now. Reporting in Myrtle Beach, Ali Espinosa, WMBF News.
All right, Allie, from Myrtle Beach, we are going to go to Georgetown now.
That's right, yeah, heading down south, our Matt Bullock is reporting for us live there. Matt, so if you can hear us, what are you seeing down there to our south now in Georgetown?
Well, let me tell you guys, the water level is continue to rise. About 45 minutes ago, literally, the water was not even at this deck, all right? As of right now, if I step my foot in, again, I don't have good boots, but look at this. Like, look how deep that is. And that is just the past 45 minutes. The water level is continuing to rise. You have flash flood warnings in effect here in Georgetown. And as I mentioned, look over, the harbor walk. Again, that's starting to be covered with water as the storm surge continues to build as Ian moves closer and closer and closer before it makes landfall. Not only that, I'm not sure if you can kind of see it. If you look off the distance, you can kind of see it. We had a sailboat about an hour ago. It kind of looked like it was tilting. Then waves started continuing to crash on top of it and started taking in water. And then now it's turned over. You kind of see where the masts hang on the other boat. That's what we noticed in the past about 45 minutes to an hour. And then not only that, right before I was doing a live shot, I heard a loud pop. And if you look towards our left, come with me, Dustin, you see kind of a sailboat with ripped sails. And so I heard a loud pop and the sails ripped. And then about 20 minutes later, the owner of the boat came by to tie up the sails. I talked to him for a little bit, helped him tie it up. He told me he's only had that boat for 1 year. He told me that he lived in Myrtle Beach for about 25 years, and he's not seen a storm like this impacting him this significantly since this storm with Ian. Again, it's bringing those gusty winds. I'm talking about right now, we're seeing winds gusting up to 45, 50 miles per hour, but it's going to continue to ramp up as Ian continues to move closer. Rain is steadily come down. If you're at home still, make sure, your phones are charged, your iPads, your tablets, make sure that's charged, because if you were to lose power, getting these gusty winds, the ground's saturated, it doesn't take much for these trees to fall down on power lines, cause those power outages. So make sure you have that installed, make sure everything's charged up. And another thing I want to show you is we're going to go down this way. So look towards the right. This tells you how deep the water is. And so if you look at the benches right before you get into the harbor walk, you can see how deep that water is. And this water is continuing to rise. So for us, this will probably be my last live shot here at the harbor walk. We're going to seek higher ground as we still have those flash flood warnings in effect here in Georgetown. It's starting to see the water starting to build over the harbor walk. And then off in the harbor, there's that sailboat still taking on water, turned to its side into another boat. And pretty much, besides that, the gusty winds, the water continues to come up. We're going to get to higher ground. We'll let you know with the latest details what we're seeing here in Georgetown. But Ian continues to approach making landfall probably the next 20, 30 minutes. But I'm going to send you back in the studio. And if you need any updates, you guys let me know, and I'll keep you guys updated.
That's some good visuals from you down there. We are seeing at least some good news that we are now past high tide. The bad news is now the winds are pushing on shore, so they're kind of counteracting each other a bit. We would expect to see a bit of a drop, but now that the winds are on shore, it's holding the water back, and we're still seeing some slow rises. Now, it is slowing down, and as that low tide starts to accelerate a bit, we should see some falls here over the next hour or so. I think we're getting towards the top end of the water levels that we'll see. But you can certainly see now that the center of that storm is starting to approach land to our south, just south of Georgetown County. Those winds are now switching more onshore rather than out of the north. They're going to do a couple things for us. It actually bumps the temperatures up. It's been awfully cool for a tropical storm and hurricane rolling through. We've seen temperatures in the 60s. Now, as soon as those winds switch onshore, they begin to quickly warm back into the 70s. It's one of the reasons we have that isolated tornado threat. The warmer the temperatures, a little more instability for those tornadoes to develop. That's still a greater threat to our north, but as we mentioned earlier, Horry County now included in that watch as well. Wind gusts starting to pick up inland as well, gusting into the mid-40s through inland Horry County. Whiteville gusting to 45. We're still seeing wind gusts offshore close to 70 on some buoys. And there's an area of some stronger winds offshore as well. There's actually some drier air filtering in. That drier air starting to eliminate some of the rain, but it can actually help to push down some of these stronger wind gusts. So we may end up with something like what we saw with Hurricane Matthew, where the rain started to end, but the winds still were picking up and turned very gusty despite the rain ending. So that may be something we'll watch here along the Grand Strand as we head into the afternoon. You can see the edge of the rain. And what's happening here is we have the cold front sitting here. And as soon as the cold front moves by you, you start to end the rain. The warm air is running over top that cooler air and dropping this heavy, steady rain. Now, this has been situated on top of the entire area, but now that we're seeing that cold front push inland, that heavier rain is also pushing inland with it. So we're catching a break along the immediate Grand Strand. Got some steadier rain across the rest of Georgetown County and Horry County. There's the center of the storm. There's those onshore winds. And notice there's not a lot of rain out here, but there are some very strong winds that will still try to pivot in here as we head through this afternoon. Landfall likely here over the next hour or so south of Georgetown. Live look at Murrells Inlet, still gusting 45. There's Veterans Pier, and it's under a couple feet of water now. And we've seen several videos and photos, the Marsh Walk underwater as well, going into the parking lots down there. And you can see some of the whitecaps and waves on here. Goat Island is somewhere underwater right here. This is typically pointed towards Goat Island. Luckily, they took the goats off the island because it is completely underwater at this point. And this will likely top out here shortly with some falls hopefully arriving over the next hour or so. We've seen some of these dune over breaches at Myrtle Beach, getting some of that water onto Ocean Boulevard in a few spots. It kind of makes its way in to some of these beach access points. That's kind of an area where the water can funnel in and make its way all the way to Ocean Boulevard. It's certainly covering the dunes now. We're seeing quite a bit of beach erosion. The waves are upwards of 8 to 10 feet on top of this surge. They are big-time waves, a lot of energy, and unfortunately likely taking a lot of sand with it as well. The numbers now, we are now into major flood stage at Springmaid Pier. We're up to 10.6 feet. Major flood stage starts at 10.5. We've seen that steady increase here throughout the morning and early afternoon. I think we may see maybe another half foot of rise or so before we start to level off. That high tide at Myrtle Beach was at 11:30 a.m., so we'll start to see the lunar tide begin to drop, and it's an offset with those onshore winds, so we should see some steady improvements as that low tide starts to accelerate a bit. The next couple of high tides, not near as much of an issue. Our typical trouble spots could see some minor flooding for that high tide late tonight, but certainly not as widespread as we're seeing up and down the Grand Strand here this afternoon. Pawleys Island has been a big trouble spot with that surge today. And you see some of these numbers, everything in red. This is in the marsh. But the marsh itself running about 9 feet higher than it typically does. So that's, of course, covering the causeways. We've seen the videos in Garden City and Pawleys Island where the water's just flowing down the streets. This was going to take some time for it to go down, maybe another hour or two before we start to see some improvements there. Again, the winds continue to gust, and that heavy rain will continue. We'll likely continue with some strong wind gusts. I don't know who we have lined up next to toss to here, but storm surge, certainly a issue here as we head through the next hour or two. Hopefully some improvements as we go into the afternoon hours. Eric.
All right, Robert, and the combination of the high tide and that storm surge from Ian really broken through some of the access points in Garden City. Take a look at this video that we're getting. Pam McElvain-Fagan sending us these videos from ocean towns of the water. You can see rushing in from the ocean there over the dunes, actually spilling into the parking lot there. This is the reason why we asked you to take advanced notice and precautions and get your vehicles to safety before this happens. In Surfside Beach, we have more areas starting to flood as Ian moves in there. The intersection of 3rd Avenue South and Yopon Drive, as well as the area surrounding River City Cafe and the Pier now underwater, a very popular spot there. And we'll want this again to serve as a reminder for you to stay indoors, stay off the roads right now, if at all possible. Emergency crews are saying that they are at an increase as they respond to situations where people just have trees in the road and emergency situations for them there, and also people just needing help being rescued. And at this point, that's why they are asking. I can tell you that Florence Police Department is saying, please stay off the roads until this storm passes. This is not a time you want to be outside. This is a time you need to be in the safety of your own home, and just wait until the storm passes. Again, later on, late this afternoon, early this evening, as the weather team has told you, this should clear out relatively quickly once it passes, so you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. But right now, this is not a time to take any chances. Stay away from the water. Stay off the 911 line unless you have an emergency. If you do have power outages, they are asking you to call your particular power entity, Oriole Electric, Santee Cooper, Duke if you're in the PD area, but please reserve 911 for emergencies. Also remember that we are getting so many pictures and so much video from you, and we so appreciate that. If from the safety of your home or the safety of your shelter you are able to do so, please submit those to us through our website. You can also do it through our weather app. But again, we'd love to see them. We'd love to show them to all of our viewers, but the biggest priority that we have here is keeping you safe. Let's head it over to Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold to find out where Ian is right now.
All right, Eric, and the center, the eye of Ian now, still just kind of drifting its way just east of Bulls Bay, maybe just east of McClellanville. Right there, there's 17 that goes down. Again, that's Bulls Bay. That's where the record highest storm surge on the East Coast occurred with Hurricane Hugo at 18 feet. I want to take you into the heart of the Grand Strand, though. I just kind of poked my head out to see what was going on. It got real quiet. I was like, well, let's see what's going on. This is not the eye in Myrtle Beach. It's not the eye. It's gotten quite calm, but it's also gotten very, very warm. We have finally gotten the push of tropical air that has worked its way onto the beaches. We're still cool into the 60s here in Conway, but it now feels much more like a typical hurricane across the Grand Strand now. It is warm and it is muggy. We're catching a little bit of a break here in the steadier and heavier rain. What we're going to have to watch for, though, is as the eye, again, down here by Bulls Bay, kind of works its way off to the north, we're going to start to pivot this area back into the Grand Strand. And I think out here over the water, there are likely some very strong winds. As we were reporting earlier, the hurricane hunters, not too long ago, a couple of hours, here in the northeastern eye wall, again, there's the eye, this is the eye wall, were reporting some hurricane force wind gusts at the surface. And you can see that eye wall, again, starting to creep its way towards Winyah Bay. That's right there when you're taking the boat into Georgetown. Winyah Bay, there's a platform there. We have consistently measured winds over 80 miles per hour. The backside of the eye, the back eye wall, continues here over Charleston, and a 92 mile per hour gust was recorded there in Charleston Harbor. Now, that was about 40 feet off the ground, but still a very powerful wind gust, even here on the backside. So this backside is something we're going to have to watch as it also continues to lift its way off to the north. So again, just to recap, if you're here in Myrtle Beach and you're like, okay, everything's over with, there's nothing going on, that's not the eye. We're getting a little bit of a break, but I do think there is some big wind out here. And if some of this thunderstorm activity starts to wrap its way back around, that's probably going to tap in to some of those big winds that are still blowing down just to our south into Georgetown County. So that's what we'll be watching out for. So maybe you need to let the dog out. Okay, you got a little while, at least a little temporary break to get that done before things start to go downhill a little bit more. Who are we going to next? As we take another look at the radar. There again is that break here from Myrtle Beach northward up to Little River. That's where you're seeing that break. There's those winds. Notice the break here, only 28 miles per hour in Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach. Blowing good in Conway, Marion, Florence, blowing good down at Georgetown. But again, that's that little break, but it's all the action down in here that we're going to have to be watching out for all the way up into Laurinburg and Lumberton now, seeing those tropical storm force wind gusts. And wow, look at this. This is happening as we speak right now. Significant storm surge does continue here in the Grand Strand. If you've been following along with us, what we've been talking about is following those water levels, and Ian is now coming in at number 3 for storm surge at Spring-Made Pier. We have knocked out Isaias. We're not up to Matthew, and I don't think we're going to get there. We're certainly not heading to Hugo levels, but we are currently in major flood stage, major storm surge underway at Spring-Made Pier. We may go up a couple of more inches. There's the old record, 9.8. That was coming in from Isaias. 13.6 is what we had with Matthew. Let's take a look. I was talking 2 things. One, I want to show you the storm surge down in Murrells Inlet. This is from the Marsh Walk. Goat Island completely submerged right now. But also notice something else down here at the South Strand, the wind. 2 things I want you to notice. One, it is still blowing very strong down in the South Strand, including Murrells Inlet. But also, if you can make it out between the shakes, notice which way those whitecaps are moving now. Earlier today, with that northeast wind, they were blowing down the marsh. Now we have basically a due east wind. That's piling that water up, and we're getting some big breakers out here. Hopefully they're not big enough to do damage there on the marsh walk, but these boats that were pretty still earlier today, kind of protected, yeah, they are definitely rocking a lot out here. So far, it looks like all the boats kind of holding steady, but you can see that wind now basically coming straight into the Marsh Walk. If you're standing there on the Marsh Walk at your favorite spot, you're looking out towards Garden City and the ocean, that wind would be blowing directly in your face. This is the Tin Roof Sky Cam. Again, we continue to see dune breaches. It looks like here, at least in this part of the beach, we lost a lot of dunes. You can see where the sand has broken through the dune fences and continues to come through a lot of those ocean access points. And while the winds aren't as strong as what we saw earlier, they are still strong enough that we are getting some huge breaking waves. So no doubt, significant and major beach erosion is underway as we speak, continuing to cause issues on the dunes. We've got a crew headed up to Cherry Grove. We also have very high water up there as well. So we're kind of holding steady with that storm surge right now. Despite the fact that we've passed high tide, we've got that wind just kind of holding that tide in. It's keeping it from coming out. So we're holding those water levels steady. Hopefully we can start to get the water down a bit before we do get another blast of stronger winds, because that would build even bigger waves on top of that storm surge. Let's check in now with some of our reporters or our anchors. Let's go through a couple of pictures, some of those storm surge pictures. Let's take these full if we can. Take your time doing it. Run through these. I'm seeing these as you have seen them. So this is coming in from the Pawleys Island Police Department. Let's go back to that other one if we can just a second. I want to take our time with these. Yeah, that's some significant storm surge that is coming into Pawleys Island right now. And I think Eric and Rachel, you're actually going to go through these pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. That storm Untitled surge from Ian taking over Springs Avenue. This is down to the Pawleys Island area. You're right on that. And that is on the south end of the island. Police there in Pawleys Island posting these photos on social media. They're showing the layer of that water, looking at making its way onto the road, coming right up to those homes. This is no joke, folks. This photo of a tree down right there on Chinner's Creek. This is in Gallivan's Ferry. This was sent in to us by Carrie Hill. Again, we are so fortunate and happy that you are all sending us videos and pictures. Keep them coming. When you are in a safe space, in a safe place to do so, just go to WMBFnews.com and submit a photo. Click on that, and we would love to see this so we can share with our viewers just how serious this storm really is, and just to re-emphasize the fact that you need to be staying indoors, at least at this point, until the storm passes. The tree blocking there, the entire roadway. Look at that. One of the many hazards, making it really a great idea, as I said, to stay home right now. There is nothing that cannot wait until late this afternoon or early evening when we can return to a little bit of normalcy. Non-emergency related crews off the roads, we are told now in Conway. The city says its crews were removed just before 1 o'clock, around 12:45, and this was because of those sustained winds we've been talking about, now above 40 miles an hour at last count from them. And first responders, public safety, are also still responding there.
That's right. Horry County Police Department also sharing this video now on your screen. This is showing floodwaters throughout the area there. That's as a warning to drivers. Again, reiterating for folks to stay off the road during this storm if you can. Road conditions are getting worse by the second there, as you've checked in with our reporters throughout the day today, where they have had to move their vehicles out of safety concerns as well. So again, this is very important. If you do have to be out, hopefully that is not the case, but just be as safe as possible. You do not want to be dealing with any kind of high water. Turn around, don't drown. It takes a matter of inches to sweep away a vehicle and not much more even to sweep away an SUV or a truck. Again, conditions are worsening by the second, and again, they are urging all travel should wait until after Ian passes.
I want to go down to Jamie because we have some breaking news just coming into the studio.
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys can hear me here with the with my mic up. Just got word from law enforcement that the end of Pawleys Island Pier has collapsed. We haven't seen a picture of that yet, but law enforcement now is reporting that the end of the Pawleys Island Pier has collapsed because of the storm surge. I got Andrew over there. He's checking in on some things, trying to get a picture. Yeah, you can take camera 3. For that, there's the team over there working. Let me do this.
We have a photo.
We
have a photo. If we could pull this up, Pawleys Island PD just posted a photo coming in. They confirmed it. I just went through. This is from Pawleys Island PD. The end of the pier has collapsed and is floating south. This just came in, a tweet just minutes ago. Here's a look for you, Jamie. I know you can't see it yet, but here's the tweet that just came in. This was at 1:23, and it is floating south. It is collapsed, and the wind's now blowing onshore, along with probably that eastern direction, continues to show this. So breaking news just coming in. Photos here that we'll get to you here in just a second.
I just retweeted that, so we should be able to get that up here in just a second. But yeah, indeed, the end of the Pawleys Island Pier has collapsed. It has succumbed to the storm surge down there in Pawleys Island. Again, we're still, Robert, are we still rising at Springmaid? Looks like we've sort of leveled off at Springmaid, but we're still very high. Water levels are still very high. And if we get this next surge of wind in here, that's really going to start piling up those big time waves. So we'll see how that transpires. Hopefully we can get these water levels down before we start to get the next big round of wind and breaking waves in there. But again, if you're just popping in here with us, the end of Pawleys Island Pier, there's those pictures. I want to credit the folks, the great folks down there at Pawleys Island PD. You can see there the end of the Pawleys Island Pier has collapsed. They have an onshore wind now, so we're still piling in big waves. And the end of the pier there is now drifting south. It is drifting south. The end of the Pawleys Island Pier has collapsed. I'm going to come back to you guys there at the set. Really hate seeing news like that. You hate to see our piers and our beaches taking such a beating, but that is unfortunately what we're dealing with here early this Friday afternoon.
All right, thank you, Jamie. It's certainly unfortunate news down there coming from Pawleys Island regarding that pier, the end of the pier breaking off, now floating south there. Again, certainly very difficult pictures to see for anyone that's been down there, made some memories down there, very difficult. Also, looks like we do have some video, hopefully there, from Patricia Grand Hotel. Let's see if we have those as well. Looks like we do not. Still taking a look here at that pier. All right, there we go. There's that video. Patricia Grand Hotel in Myrtle Beach. That is showing the storm surge. You can see there were swallowed up a chair from the beaches. There you can see it floating as well right there. Also want to go ahead and check in as well with Ali Espinosa right now, certainly seeing some of that wind there near you, and we want to see how things are looking as well in Myrtle Beach.
Ali looks.
That's right, we're here on 3rd Avenue and Ocean Boulevard, that intersection. We parked right near a motel. Now, right now, Public Works, Myrtle Beach Public Works is currently working on this scene right here. The ocean actually came over these first few steps here and overflowed into this parking lot here by the motel I said we were at. Now, as of right now, we have seen some flooding in the areas. We've also seen quite a few tree limbs and branches falling off of the trees and coming onto the roads and sidewalks. But again, we're still monitoring the situation. We're still looking around to see what's going on. For now, reporting in Myrtle Beach, Ali Espinosa, WMBF News.
All right, thank you so much, Ellie. Stay safe out there. Thank you so much for that report. Taking a look now, this is a tree on top of a house in Pine Lakes in Myrtle Beach. I want to say thank you to Carly Powell for sending in this photo there. You can clearly see some of the damage being dealt with in that area. Also in Florence, a toppled tree struck a power line and ended up on top of a car. As we were hearing in Governor McMaster's earlier press conference, crews had responded to over 200 downed trees so far in our state, so certainly a big issue that we are watching as well. This photo here, this is on Gregg Avenue. These photos sent in to us by Chad Patterson, and again, we do want to remind you, avoid any down or damaged power lines. Again, everyone reiterating today from law enforcement and everyone looking out for folks' safety to stay indoors if you can, do not travel. Santee Cooper saying some of its crews are having to stand down and head indoors themselves in certain areas for their safety. Again, that's because of the increasing wind speeds. Crews have been out working, trying to restore power all morning. Santee Cooper says it will be back out in all areas trying to restore power as soon as it is safe for them to do so. In the meantime, though, you can still report outages to 888-769-7688. Again, something we've been reiterating all day. Do not call 911 with any power outage issues. You can head on over to our website or use our WMBF News app or weather app, and if you go into the Hurricane Center, we have a whole page there full of the phone numbers that you can call if you're dealing with an outage or any other important calls you need to make in order to free up that very important 911 line for those emergencies. Also taking a look, a tree on top of a power line from Rybolt Road and Pawleys Island there. That picture sent in to us by Patty Younts. Remember, fallen power lines are extremely dangerous, so make sure you avoid any areas. If you see something like this, do not risk it. And as long as it is safe to do so, feel free to share any storm damage videos or photos that you can see again and safely take and share with us. You can share those through the WMBF First Alert weather app. Also want to get a bird's eye view now of the rising floodwaters in Myrtle Beach. This is how it looks from Ocean Creek Resort on Ocean Boulevard there.
Pawleys Island police say that Midway Fire Rescue had to send in its water vehicle to the 300 block of Myrtle Avenue. Their residents and pets had to be rescued. We are happy to report, though, that everyone is okay, but obviously a very scary situation. This is what we're trying to get you to avoid. Right after that rescue, take a look at the waters on Myrtle Avenue near the causeway. Look at how high that water is. This is video from North Waccamaw Drive now in Garden City. The surge broken through at the dunes there at Ocean Towns. The Myrtle Beach police are at the intersection also of Kings Highway. We're told in 3rd Avenue South, a traffic light is out there. But hopefully that shouldn't affect you because you shouldn't be on the roads, right? Authorities are telling us to wait until the storm passes before we get out and about. Just have several hours from now, but by late afternoon and early evening, you should be back to a normal conditions now as we're seeing our lights flicker right here in the studio. Officers continuing to stress the importance of using caution on the road if you do have to get out, and I would say just for an emergency. Again, just flickering lights back onto the studio, but you can see this is really widespread all through the Myrtle Beach Grand Strand area at this point.
And another thing I also wanted to add too, obviously you should not be out if you can help it, but if you do come to an intersection where the stoplights are out, remember, treat that like a 4-way stop. That is what is being suggested with any kind of outages when it comes to those stoplights. Also taking a look here, it looks like heavy wind and rain, of course, at the Waccamaw River near Highway 905. That is in Conway. And right now we do actually want to head back out to see Ian Klein. I know that last time we checked in, you were about ready to move your location out of safety concerns. So can you tell us a little bit more about where you are now and now what are you seeing there, Ian?
So we're still on Atlantic Avenue here in the Garden City area. We've moved up several feet or so. We actually had to move again. If you go online on Facebook, we did a Facebook Live trying to walk a little bit closer, and after that we ended up actually having to move up even more. So we're about probably a good 100 yards away from where the water is currently rising, but just within the 15-20 minutes that we've been down here, you can see how much that water level has risen from where the road closed sign actually is all the way to about maybe another 50 yards or so past the sign. Now, one thing a lot of people are trying to do is come out, take pictures, stepping in the water, not something you want to be doing, obviously. We heard a loud boom, which we're assuming might have been a transformer, which is how high the water's coming up, so we aren't sure if that was what that is. But you do have to realize that if you're getting into these waters, you don't know what you're getting into. Obviously, there could be debris. We've seen a lot of that down here in the Garden City area as well, but overall, that storm surge has overtaken what was at least the Atlantic Avenue Bridge that took you down into Garden City. I spoke with a few homeowners down here in the area that said they're keeping an eye out. No water has been reported in any of their homes, at least right now. Most of them are actually off of risers, kind of like the trailers that are lifted off on the center block. So a few of them have about 2.5, 3 feet of clearance before water could actually start getting into those homes. But they said it's rising fast and it's getting pretty close to where they're at. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated throughout the evening. But if you are in this area, you will have to probably find an alternate route. And if you do see those road closed signs, don't be that person. Turn around. And if you do see those waters in the area of the homes, don't go rushing through, because even though it's not necessarily there, those creating those wakes, and those wakes can push more water into those homes if it starts seeping in there. So if you have to drive through, drive slow, be courteous, and of course be smart. Stay off the roads as much as you can this evening, but we'll send it back to you guys in the studio tonight.
All right, Ian, appreciate that. And, we were seeing so many viewer-submitted photos and videos, and we love to see that when it is safe to do so we can share them with you, which we're going to do now.
Yeah, we're going to do that now, and we're all going to kind of take a look at these. And again, a lot of these we're all kind of seeing at the same time. I can't see any of that.
I know.
That is Cherry Grove, and you can see that's up at the north end of Cherry Grove, where we do have the significant storm surge. You can kind of get a feel for the scope of that storm surge. Now, if you're new, if this is your first hurricane, Cherry Grove floods, okay? It floods. But this is significant by Cherry Grove standards. So again, we do have that storm surge, which is up in Cherry Grove. We had the big issues in Cherry Grove from Isaias. Based on that picture, it looks like we're getting big issues up there from Ian. Let's go through these next couple ones.
I just want to point out real quickly before you do, what bothers me about that picture is that there is someone standing there right by.
It is human nature that we want to look outside and go outside and see
look
it
outside,
and
go
feel
look
it.
out the windows, but listen to your officials. Listen to us. We've been telling you this is not a time to go out and explore. We will do that for you. If you can safely take pictures from inside your home or out a window, that's great, but we don't want to see anyone get hurt.
Right. Well, even in that press conference earlier with Henry McMaster, they're saying that their big concern now, they have prepared, but human error. You know, a human decision. It comes down to that. So that's why we're here, to try to make sure that you have all the information you need. We're trying to show you pictures here, so you do not need to head out there, but we just want to make sure you know what we are dealing with here. So it looks like another photo now.
Elizabeth Sheridan, it looks like.
That's right. North Myrtle Beach, Ocean Drive underwater there in that area. Again, you can see as well in that photo that the trees there certainly taking on that gust of wind. Looks like we can take a look and see what else we have here as we scroll down. Taking a look here at another tree.
Looks like that tree's about to give way.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we've seen a lot of trees, huge trees, just break off right.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Let's keep going through these
Yeah, that one's
pictures
in
here.
Surfside Beach as well. I know, so I do live in Surfside. We just lost power out at my house too, so a lot of folks starting to see some of those issues as well
High
through
winds
that area
there
we've been talking about all day long.
Trish Selbert there.
Yep, that's in the Conway area, and we're still consistently gusting up around 50 miles per hour there in Conway, so still probably bringing down some trees. This is the Apache family campground.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, you can see. We've got a couple of other pictures from around the Apache area, and they're all showing that pretty significant storm surge. There is, it's hard to see, but that's right there by the Apache Pier. We also have some pictures and some video, I believe, coming in from that Arcadian Shores area, where we do have some significant storm surge that continues. These are really impressive. This is Garden City. This is South Waccamaw, half-mile south of the Garden City Pier. I know you got to turn your head sideways, but you can see those are the waves, the breaking waves that are actually working their way there into the streets of Garden City. Those breaking waves coming over the dunes, and then they're flowing underneath the houses. That's why our houses are elevated.
Right, yes.
But still, you don't want to see it.
And we have seen so much from the Briarcliff area. I've seen pictures from the 70th Avenue North and Ocean Boulevard where the beaches, high tide hit. The water is so far up that people are taking pictures and taking video over the balconies just watching it come under the building.
Yeah, so if you want to kind of check out what's happening,